It's Wednesday, my dudes.
There's a time to be live, and it's right now. Here we go.
We're back. Welcome back. Wednesday, 5th of August, 2026. Pandemonium on the timeline.
As usual.
ETN on NASDAQ. AISI incident. Apple versus OpenAI. Open model to exempt from US evaluation. There's a lot of stuff to dig into. Let's go to ETN on NASDAQ first. But before that, let me pull up the AirWallex agenda for you guys real quick, just so we can see who's on lineup today. Daria, Saharova, managing partner at World Fund, is joining us, calling in live from the NASDAQ, actually, funnily enough, on the day that we are live on the NASDAQ.
I wonder how that happened.
Yeah, funny that. Managing partner at World Fund. There's a small hint in there, actually, for the people that are viewing the stream right now. Managing partner at World Fund coming in at 1. They're going to talk to us like, what's going on at the NASDAQ right now? They're actually sat there for IQM's listing, so we'll be digging into a little bit about how are they performing, what does that look like, quantum computing, and a whole other bunch of AI stuff. Alexandru, Voica, I think first time on the show.
Man, what a legend.
What a king. Just quick shout out to Alexandru, head of corporate affairs and policy at Synthesia. He does great work there. He's done great work with us for a while.
And he's been chefing in the kitchen for ETN as well.
Yeah, he's been cooking
for many months.
Been cooking from the start.
So it's been lovely to, well, no, literally from the start.
Yeah.
We had Victor first guest.
Insane. Shout out to Alexandru.
He's been chefing up with ETN, and we're very proud to be able to have him on the show.
Absolute ledge. Ross McNairn is back, CEO at Wordsmith AI. They have done a Series B extension. Always good to catch up with Ross. What's going on in the world of legal AI? Following that at 1:45, it's the man, the myth, the legend. It's Paul Bonnet. He's back. Yes. GP at 20 VC. We're going to be digging into bending spoons. Going to bend that spoon live on air. Find out what's inside of it.
We do.
Following that, we've got Rob Hadick, GP at Dragonfly, digging into a whole bunch of trending topics right now. Basically everything that we're going to just discuss in the news with him, but a real focus on cybersecurity, which seems to be the anchor of the day today. Stefan, Weitz, co-founder and CEO at HumanX. He's back on the show again. They've just released a crunch-based data report on all things Europe, all things AI, all things VC. So that's going to be a great conversation, a very data-driven conversation with Stefan, which we love doing on the show. Sam Hogg, Mr. Hogg, head of policy engagement at Oxford China Policy Lab. Disco-plomacy, the man himself. He's back in the business with the boys. He also just updated his profile photo for you. If you guys haven't seen that yet, please go to @disco-plomacy. You can see his brand new profile picture. He's stunned in it. It's a nice sort of film camera type edit to it. It looks grainy. It looks original. It looks great. So,
kind of has the weird half and half grainy, but then also super high quality vibe. It's giving like,
was it AI? I don't know. Let's dig into it.
He AI'd it.
Madison Mills, timeline queen, set the whole thing on fire yesterday with her scoop over at Axios, senior AI reporter at Axios. The AI talent wars and their loyalty issues amongst them. The main thing being that Daria was concerned that new joiners to Anthropic were not in it for the mission, they're in it for the money. Let me tell you, buddy, they're bag chasers. We're going to be digging into it with Madison Mills, find out what were the findings from the scoop, how did she get the scoop, what are her takeaways, how did the investigation go. But what a joy to welcome Madison onto the show.
Leave outdated business banking behind with AirWallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business, multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com. Let's go to our lovely news.
First things first. UK AI Security Institute cyber incident.
They've been reviewing away, getting a bunch of cool things cooking.
Gee whiz, these guys,
all the crazy cybersecurity stuff that's been going on.
These guys are cracked. These guys are seriously cracked. It's a blessing that we have them here in the UK. But you're probably wondering, why is this being talked about? Let me tell you, OpenAI and Anthropic models went rogue in cyber tests. UK watchdog says. We need to get a barking soundbite, I've just realized. UK watchdog says, the AI Security Institute warns that tools undertook potentially harmful activity directed at real people and organizations. Anthropic and OpenAI's flagship models broke into third-party software and emailed individuals to steal their credentials, exhibiting unprecedented deceptive behavior, according to the UK's AI Security Institute. Or I'm wondering how people pronounce this in the space. I've been saying like AISI.
Oh, no,
AISI.
AISI.
People just say AISI.
Yeah.
See, I'm all about those efficiency gains. I can just do it in one AISI.
AISI.
AISI. You know, I'm more of an AISI kind of guy.
We're not AISI.
We're not AISI. The UK government's Frontier AI Safety and Security Research Body said Anthropic's Mythos 5 and OpenAI's GPT 5.6 Sol engaged in sustained, potentially harmful activity directed at real people and organizations. During AISI, see, now you got me going with this one. During AISI's routine cyber evaluation is where they sort of uncovered this. The discovery of the model's actions, which included attempting to insert malicious code into an open source project on the popular developer platform GitHub, came just days after disclosures that Anthropic and OpenAI's AI agents hacked into external organizations. The hacking saga continues. We are seeing hacks left, right, and center. We were making jokes the other day that now everyone's models who aren't hacking things are furiously on the phone saying, what can we hack? Can we leak a hack? Who can we hack? It's becoming almost like a status symbol.
It's a bit of a competition on who can hack the most companies.
And
what companies can they hack?
It's an interesting competition to be a part of. It's an interesting competition to set off.
Indeed.
The latest security breach was contained within an hour by AISI. It was discovered during an evaluation of AI agents' ability to solve cybersecurity challenges. The tests were run on the open internet with models that had some safeguards removed. So the number of tests on 10 of the 122 test runs, the AI agent took autonomous, unsanctioned action on the live internet, targeting real people and organizations, the IISI said. Funny way to refer to the internet. Like, on the live internet, I guess, because it's like maybe a sandbox environment, you probably have to stress, like, is the...
Well, it hasn't been given, no barriers.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Almost all of this behavior was from Anthropic's Mythos, with 2 actions involving OpenAI's GPT. It said, in the most serious case, the agent engaged in social engineering, creating fake online identities and using them to pressure the project's maintainer to approve the code. Interesting. The person who oversaw the software core and refused to approve the malicious code. So it's a win for the humans. Humans caught it. We stopped it. That's your humans won. Skynet 0. Mark it down in the calendars. This was the day that the humans won. We did not have our Lisa Doll moment today.
Indeed, we didn't. ASI came out with their statement yesterday on X. They went direct, as we very much like. They said on July 28th, we identified an incident during a routine cyber evaluation in which AI agents took sustained, unsanctioned actions directed at real people and organizations. The behavior came mostly from one model, as you said, Mythos 5, with a small number of events from another, OpenAI's ChatGPT 5.6 Sol. Bit of like rubbing the wound for OpenAI. Anthropic's Mythos 5 is doing the heavy lifting. Its back's hurting. In the most serious case, an agent used social engineering to try and get malicious code into an open source project. As was standard in our cyber testing, we had intentionally permitted internet access, and model provider cyber classifiers were deliberately disabled, conditions that do not reflect how frontier models are made available to the public. Even under test conditions, this incident is significant. It is the first time we have seen risks around autonomy and deception manifest this clearly in the real world. We are taking this instance seriously and working with labs, involved parties and others to improve the evaluation standards and best practices for disclosure and sharing this openly so others can learn. We all need to learn. Humans need to be better than AI. That is what AISI are trying.
See, it's a bit of a tongue twister.
They're taking it seriously, which is very, very good. I think Anthropic then came back kind of with another gone direct response to the AISI kind of like response on Twitter and said, The AISI has published a report on their recent cybersecurity evaluation of Anthropic's Claude Mythos 5 and OpenAI's ChatGPT 5.6 Sol. The models attempted to complete an assignment in a setup where their normal safeguards were removed and they were deliberately given internet access. AISI reports that the models engaged in sustained, potentially harmful activity directed at real people and organizations. We're grateful to AISI for their leadership in the important discussion about how to evaluate increasing capable AI agents. Let's go. We're working closely with them to gather more details of the incident as we conduct our own investigation. It's kind of like a bit of a victory lap for Anthropic here. Hey, we're working with the regulators because our model is just so good. That
all our hats, so many hats.
Gaining a clear picture, they said, of Claude's understanding of its situation. This is so good. This is literally just like rub salt in the wound of OpenAI. Like, our model is so good, we have to gain understanding of its situation. By examining its reasoning transcripts and running our own analysis will help us identify the causes of its behavior. The prompts in the evaluation do not impose any specific restrictions on how the internet should be used. This and the removal of safeguards meant that the models were tested under deliberately permissive conditions that are not representative of any of our models. Note that there was no evidence here of an escape from a secure environment. So they kind of, almost like let it kind of happen.
Yeah. And a spokesperson from OpenAI also said that there was a continued need for independent testing of models, but also emphasized that these incidents, they occurred during cyber evaluations conducted by evaluation partners in testing environments with reduced safeguards under conditions that don't really reflect ordinary use. So it was like, let's make this as, sounds like as easy for it to go rogue as possible in this sort of like testing evaluation sandbox environment, just to see like, how do they act, how do they think, and how do they perform, and all that sort of stuff.
Understand where, the capabilities of it if given optimal environments.
Yeah, and this comes at a time where the relationships between government and frontier labs and open source and AI in general is getting a lot closer. We've seen that relationship accelerate. We will talk about the open source exemption from the White House Frontier Model Review, the AI framework that the information reported on yesterday. That meeting has taken place already, and these are the results from that is that open source will not be included in those sort of pre-release
and we'll get to that
testing environments. Yeah, but we can come to that.
There was a really good tweet from Boaz Barak, if we could pull this up. He said, while evaluations should be carefully controlled, models taking unsanctioned actions is a serious concern our industry needs to address. These tables in the AI Security Institute's technical report summarize the incidents. The worst incident involved making a PR to a GitHub repository with malware and using prompt injection and social engineering to try and get it merged. Essentially, the tables in the report kind of document like additional actions like identity hiding, network path opening, capture bypasses, cross-agent coordination, kind of like, they're talking via shared notes. There's real world like deception from AI and like autonomy risks that all of the tables kind of like highlight and explain kind of exactly like where we are. But very useful review.
On the capture stuff, I've been seeing that. So back at Convergence when we were doing this, if like our browser agents were able to pass captures, they could like get past the capture. The captures were relatively basic back then, like spin this circle 3 times. What letters do you see in this image? Like all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it would pass them pretty, basically 9 times out of 10. It was like basically one of the benchmarks that we tried to implement internally.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing 2 things. One, the models are passing, like the agents are passing even harder capture tests. But the capture, I don't know who runs these, like the capture companies, I guess. I would love to maybe dig a bit more into like who, other companies that like, hey, my product is I make the capture test. Like, is that? I assume that's probably a thing. I've never looked into the space, but they're getting a lot harder. And but AI is just kind of blowing most of them out the water. And 2 examples I gave, I don't have them up on my screen right now, but I just got reminded of them. Was Swix, like an AI engineer. He's sharing like he's like talking to like one of his personal agents, I think maybe via WhatsApp or some sort of messaging service that he's put in.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like commanding the agent to do something, and the agent's like, hey, like I've run into like a capture test, and he's like, pass it. And then it comes back like, hey, I'm through. Like, yeah, like, it's not like, it's literally, there's just no guardrails. But
it's like, do your job. Okay.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, cool. Okay, I'm fine. I will.
Make no mistakes.
But off the back of that, I think maybe my algorithm was just sort of trending towards capture tests and passes. But another guy, I forget his name now, but he's like, I'm a 40-year-old man. This is his tweet. He's like, I'm a 40-year-old man. I've like studied like, like maths and something like for a while. Like, a clearly smart individual. He's like, I can't pass this capture test. Like, he shared the capture test. It was incredibly hard. I looked at it for about 5 minutes and I couldn't do it. I was trying to work out like, what? So they are getting harder. The capture tests are getting harder, but AI is catching up very quickly. It seems to just be smashing through all of them.
Indeed. OpenAI came out with their kind of new, their new shiny cybersecurity instance that they wanted to show the timeline. We're detailing 2 new incidents that occurred during external cyber evaluations conducted by independent evaluation partners, and by doing so, Sowers gave an update on the felony bench. Where are we in the frontier models in terms of the number of cybersecurity instances? Sorry, Anthropic, they're trailing in 3. 3 confirmed by OpenAI, but then 2 in total, considering this new post.
5 total. 5.
Yeah, OpenAI kind of.
2 more. Yeah.
These 2 more. The 14 hours ago. They're the 2 more.
Nice.
Boom.
Okay, so OpenAI are on 5, Anthropic are on 3. Nothing from Meta, Mistral, and Moonshot.
Yeah, the 3 M's.
We need to up those. Yeah, triple M's. We need to up those numbers. That was a great post. That was a great post.
This is even better. If we pull this up, Rat King quote posted OpenAI and said, "Feel like whatever secure box the Frontier Labs are testing their models inside of has more holes than a cheese grate."
Yeah, but like it does seem to be. This is what like driving a lot of discourse right now is like the timeline was split between, maybe not even split. A lot of the stuff I was seeing was basically like, guys, what are we doing here? Like, come on, you've pre-programmed. Well, there's I guess 2 arguments. Like, hey, this environment is set up to allow this type of thing. So let's not act incredibly shocked when the thing happens.
Yeah.
But I can understand why they would set up the environment to then maybe explore like emergent behaviors of the agent once it does, or like how does it find a way to get out? What does it do? Post that breakout, how is it sort of thinking?
Yeah. Zero Hedge was kind of trying to figure out exactly like what the agent actually might go and do. You never know. So these testing environments are really important. Zero Hedge goes on and says, OpenAI says model accidentally traveled to the past and murdered Sarah Connor. You never know. It's worth doing these testing environments, having these testing environments. The agents might go and do these. The models
I like Zero Hedge because for a while, all of the stuff he was putting out was just pure, legit, like factual information.
Yeah.
And I've kind of seen this past year, he's starting to have a bit more fun with it. Like he's letting a little bit looser. He's
I like it.
Shedding his skin a little bit. It's kind of
yeah.
like Zero Hedge after hours, dropping some game on the timeline. You love to see that. You love to see that from him. This is one from Gabriel over there at MTS, previous guest of the show. Shout out to Gabriel. But Gabriel at Gabriel_Dick says, kind of sick that AISI ran this eval. Just gloves off, sicko mode. And it is. These guys are great. These guys do amazing work. And it's cool to see them, not that they aren't in the limelight already, but it's cool to see them go viral. It's cool to see them get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Because they do.
Again, voice of reason coming in,
Yeah, sensible shoes on. Hey, guys, come on.
Hey, guys.
To be fair, they are kind of saying.
UK stepping in. Let's just go and put some sensibility in here.
They do say agents took sustained, unsanctioned actions directed at real people and organizations. Maybe could have added like in our testing environment that we've set up.
Yeah, this is us.
Maybe prompt this type of behavior.
Indeed. Let's move on. But before we do that, 11 Labs, AI that communicates at human level across every channel and modality. Deploy conversational agents across every customer interaction and create content at scale and on brand. Go to 11labs.io. Let's move on to story number 2 that we have. The the US open model exemption.
So this is fascinating.
Story. This
to
is
me,
very fascinating.
Personally, I find this very interesting.
There's a lot of discourse about this on the timeline. Load of discourse.
One off the back of Dom Hallis's conversation that we had yesterday, he kind of broke down what was going on at the meeting. He mentioned that a few people had there's been a bit of a reshuffle internally on the AI strategy. And we got a nice inside look into that. If you haven't seen that, there is a clip on our X profile that you can look. He basically breaks down what exactly is happening. I like that soundbite. But this
we're just recapping yesterday, you know?
This is from the White House AI guidelines exempt US open models from government review. I was surprised to see this. It does, to me, seem like their whole positioning and narrative has been, we are worried about open source, we are worried about open weights. But they've been exempt from the review. So I don't know if maybe there's an alternate plan in terms of how they'll approach these open source and open weight models, only like essentially from China coming over, how they'll sort of react to that, how they'll maintain that, how they can protect their data, how can they protect like US citizens' data going into these models, and obviously like those models distilling information from internal models. But the WSJ writes a whole piece on the whole thing and breaks it down for us. The new framework completed in recent days is seen as most likely to affect OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google. People are saying Daria and Sama must be pretty annoyed. I assume Demis is very happy about this. It aligns with his sort of mission statement. But the Trump administration's new guidelines for powerful artificial intelligence tools exempt open models made by US companies, a gap that marks the White House's latest bid to ensure AI tools are safe without slowing down innovation. Okay, so this is specifically, US tools will not be included on the open model side. Under a framework that administration officials discussed with executives from leading AI companies Tuesday, only makers of closed proprietary US models that demonstrate state-of-the-art capabilities in cybersecurity and hacking based on performance benchmarks would have to voluntarily submit those models to the government for testing before they are released. People familiar with the matter said. And open weight models whose developers, including NVIDIA, make them available to download so users can run and customize them on their own would be exempt from that. So they will not be part of that review. It will just be these frontier labs. And it's one when, and we said this with Dom yesterday, when the US are putting on their regulation hats, that's when you know something's going down. In my opinion,
for sure.
You know? Yeah, for sure. Like, Dom referenced it in a way that they have started to, like, the UK and areas of Europe have been doing this for a while. Have been banging that drum for quite a while. It got a lot of negative attention, got a lot of negative press. Obviously, the US profile for these labs is let's push. Like more like, let's get to where we think we can go and then just see what happens, and then we'll kind of manage that when we get there. And I don't actually necessarily disagree with that, specifically within with what's at stake within the AI race. But it's a telling sign that they are meeting, they are discussing, and they now have passed this bid to ensure that they can contain the growth or make sure we're growing in a sensible way, but also let's try and not slow down innovation. Like WSJ here says, they want to make sure that the AI tools are safe without slowing down innovation. From a European perspective, I think putting anything in that like regulation bucket, you can't escape, slowing things down. Like they would have to slow down. I can't imagine how.
There was a really good tweet about this, and we'll get to it at some point. But yeah, you're right. Like it seems like the only option. I think the end of the tweet was like, it seems like the only and the best option without like kind of Euro-style regulation, which, sadly is true.
Yeah. And we're not 100% sure on what the process is yet for that testing. I assume maybe some sort of like internal benchmarking thing that maybe the White House will have like an internal AI
so there's
team.
been a bunch of discourse around how secretive they've been about this. And we could probably pull this up actually. So Andrew Curran kind of followed the moment and kind of broke it on X with open weight models will not be safety tested under the new AI regulations, he says, screenshotting routers, and said, US President Donald Trump's administration on Tuesday told leading AI companies that it will not safety test open weight AI models, according to two sources familiar with the matter. He then goes on and quote posts his own post and says, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that this only applies to American-made open models. Washington said the Trump administration's new guidelines for powerful artificial intelligence tools exempt open models made by US companies, a gap that marks the White House's latest bid to ensure AI tools are safe without slowing down innovation. Under a framework that administration officials discuss, you haven't read this, right?
No.
With executives from leading AI companies on Tuesday, only makers of closed proprietary US models that demonstrate state-of-the-art capabilities in cybersecurity and hacking based on performance benchmarks would have to voluntarily submit those models to the government for testing before they are released. People familiar with the matter said. So he was kind of breaking this down a bit.
We had touched on that in the archives, realised. It tells us a little bit about how this will roll out, what the core testing framework not specifically is, but they say that the pre-release testing is a core part of the June executive order that was marked by Trump, his attempt to address the mounting security risk posed by AI. It's nice to see him get involved again, as we were saying, just to hammer that home. Like it was surprising to me, but I do think this is overall a good thing. But important to stress, like bringing up that tweet, it is not including. So yeah, that is the exemption is part of only US open models. Like it would not. Everything else is let's get it in. Let's try this stuff out. Let's test it, which makes a lot more sense in terms of their. Because I was surprised to see like why would they do that?
Yeah, I mean. Again, Andrew Curran said, Bloomberg says Chinese open weight models are exempt. The White House has not commented to anyone about this. So until they do, this probably won't get cleared up. They've told US artificial intelligence companies that open weight models being developed by their Chinese rivals won't be subject to government testing.
And I feel that probably caused some confusion. I think a lot of the discourse was like, yes, like open is the way, like. Freedom via open, have your closed models like get run by the government, blah, blah. But now it's kind of like, okay, yeah, it's only US open models.
Yeah. Though, again, very, very good tweet. Only 1,200 views, which is actually bonkers. I think we should pull this up. This is from XLR8 Harder. Says some initial reactions on the AI regulatory agreement in no particular order. The ending is actually super interesting. So it says, handing this administration an open-ended, powerful tool with unclear limits and scope has a colourful track record, which we all know about. The secrecy and lack of clarity about it is a huge problem for all the obvious reasons, and won't belabor them here. I won't belabor them here, but it's not an acceptable arrangement between government and governed, and doubtfully so when industry is involved in drafting the regulation. Whatever is said about it, this is very clearly just a provisional agreement, which explains why it's fairly narrow and minimalist. That was the kind of discourse that wasn't really talked about that much, and like there was a decent amount of kind of secrecy around it. It was like, hey, like we're going to go do this. That was kind of it, and. He goes on to say, or they go on to say, this explains the open source carve out and the cybersecurity only scope, but don't expect those boundaries to be stable. I still think this is somewhat early, but in theory, I have no problem with careful regulation targeted at actual observable risk. And then most interesting says one other reason for the open source carve out, it's a lot messier. You need more companies involved. You need to figure out what you're going to do when the models are already out there. You need to figure out what you're going to do with if China ignores you. It's much thornier problem. It's possible. It's probably smart that they didn't do anything hasty on this point. People will say this is a win for political connections on the open source side, but I think the practical implementation problems are probably why lobbyists on that side had a good story to begin with. People will criticize the ad hoc approach, but with a fast-moving target, it still might be the only practical approach to limit risk while avoiding European-style regulation strangulation, which, again, is correct, right? So it's like... it's moving so quickly. Open weight models are improving performance-wise so fast. So many people can go and build their own model within like the open weight kind of ecosystem. It becomes this like very, very messy ecosystem of things. And so almost like being brash, putting a hard like kind of stop regulation on it almost like makes no sense.
But they're going to come for it probably.
Yes, potentially. You never know. But we will cover the story as it kind of unfolds a little bit more over the next few days, and see where we land.
Some last bits just on what are the comms coming out. This is from Trump again. China has virtually no controls, he said in the Oval Office last week. It's freewheeling a little bit. We have to be careful in both ways. We don't want to restrict them, where all of a sudden we come in second to China. That was reported by Axios previously on the open model exemption. And then National Cybersecurity Director and the Treasury Secretary are among the officials leading the AI work and increasing attention on security risks. While White House AI advisor David Sachs, shout out to Sachs, had advocated for a lighter touch, maybe something that has less guardrails around that you can sort of smash through that innovation profile with. And then let models naturally proliferate and be used to defend against cyber attacks and other threats. So yeah, maybe. Dom mentioned there was like a bit of a shake-up. Like these are the individuals that he was kind of he was referencing. Scott Besant as well. Sachs is apparently getting slightly moved out the way, and the profile is coming on to these individuals that he mentions here. But yeah, it's that previous tape that you pulled up on X, I think, was probably the most fascinating, just because I feel that like it will probably come for them. They just don't know how to do it yet, and they don't want to just chuck something out there. Yeah.
So if we pull this up as well, Chris McGuire came out with they have a reactive stance, not like a proactive stance, right? And Chris is basically saying it's probably not the right way to do it, to be honest. So again, like this discourse is like very, very kind of two-sided. He says as soon as there is a major security incident involving an open weight model, which very clearly will happen at some point, we all kind of know that, this obviously is a bad decision. This obviously bad decision will get reversed. It's very unfortunate that our plan is to wait for that to happen rather than proactively testing open models. So he's kind of warning this like reactive stance, waiting for like an inevitable security incident to happen, missing the opportunity for like a proactive risk assessment of like development of AI. The comment is also like the most interesting because we've been saying this for days and days. It's like, I don't know, it seems like OpenAI and Anthropic is currently having a competition on who can accidentally hack the most companies out there. I don't see any open source models having this issue.
Double
I think Thomas IP or LP IP, I think, yes, correct. But then also open source models, like, it's inevitable that there are going to be some incidences that happen just, based on their performance level now and how close they are in terms of performance level compared to the proprietary models that are at the moment doing all this kind of, cybersecurity hacky thing.
But then I'd argue in a sense that like let's say that they are doing
again, nothing's happened yet.
But if they're doing if the defensive side of this research and improvements that they're making on like frontier models, I guess like defensively they will always be ahead of open source, essentially, if they're responding to the benchmark level that frontier models are at, and then implementing defensive capabilities based off those benchmarks, then open source would never have a strong potential to break through. Which was where the reactive stuff, maybe that counteracts the argument in a way. But then, like, none of that matters if you have frontier models just like hacking everything anyway, right? So it makes no sense.
Matan, I think Factory, at Factory said enormous win for open models. For closed models, even if they might not like it, for every business and individuals, every individual that drinks from tap of intelligence, and for the United States, masterful work from those involved. We remain on the good timeline for now.
We have to include in that though, like this is, like that take makes sense if it was all open source models, I think. But the fact that like all the good open source models are also in this bucket, then
does it really make sense?
But maybe it's maybe we will see resources flow to, US open models. I don't really know any off the top of my head, to be quite honest. I don't know what their open source scene is saying because it's just so incredibly dominated by
proprietary models.
Frontier Labs, right? Like, I don't, like, does anyone even
no one
have
cares
any over there? Yeah, I was going to say, like, when did this become a thing? I've never seen anything about them. Maybe I'm just being ignorant, but they're operating incredibly secretively. But I haven't seen anything about them. But yeah, that's the debate. As I said, we've got a few people coming on to talk about this. It will be a trending topic of today for the conversations. Those conversations start in 25 minutes, where we're welcoming 8 guests onto the show.
Indeed. While we do that, AI analytics platform where trust meets insight. Hex helps teams of all sizes by giving teammates the ability to get insights from their data. Go to hex.tech. Let's do this.
OpenAI versus Apple. Legal battle. We shared some of the screenshots that were coming out on the email chain from OpenAI and Apple. This was a bit of a nuts one. It was a bit of a sort of...
Such a strange story.
Like 2000s comedy exchange in a way. The ways that the comms were pronounced, the way that the comms were laid out, the overall story in general. It was cartoonish in a way, the fallout. But OpenAI and Apple are in a legal battle. OpenAI hits back at Apple over the oddly personal trade secrets fights shared by the Financial Times. Legal clash deepens after an AI partnership over devices gives way to acrimony. Jamie John in London reports OpenAI has accused Apple of waging a careless, aggressive, and oddly personal lawsuit in a blog post rebuting the iPhone maker's claims that the AI startup stole top secret information. We do not have, nor want, any of their trade secrets, the ChatGPT maker wrote on Monday evening, accusing Apple of making vague accusations and trying to change their narrative. This hit the timeline. The way that OpenAI responded to this sort of...
Very denial-based.
Yeah, it was deny, but also post screenshots on timeline of Apple's legal counsel's faux pas, which we will get into. But I was very surprised to see OpenAI come out with their own blog post. They posted via Twitter, and they just shared everything. It was screenshots of everything. Everyone was kind of saying, "Is this cool? Is this?"
Well, I mean, they're openly denying it, right? Like,
I guess.
Let's just be truthful, right?
They had redacted some really important. They'd redacted some names and all that sort of stuff. So maybe they've obviously run it by a lawyer and be like, what do we have to take out for us to do this? And they've been like this.
Sure.
But it was like watching. It was almost. I thought it was kind of childish in a way to take to the timeline in such a way. It's kind of like pre-seed founder versus pre-seed founder on X with less than 5,000 followers each.
Yeah, not a $5 trillion company and a company imminently
the most valuable private company of all time. It seemed like, come on, guys, let's get out the playpen, let's put the toys down, and let's settle this. Let's settle this like real people over here. Let's settle this like grown-ups.
We need the voice of reason back.
Let's bring the AISI in here to mediate. So the post that we're discussing, like what actually happened, the post marks the latest escalation in this dispute that's been going on for a month. That began last month when Apple filed a lawsuit claiming that OpenAI had stolen hardware designs as it plans to launch its own AI-focused consumer devices. There'd been some ruckus between the two after Apple and OpenAI were kind of working together on making Siri a little bit better, I think, and then the gloves were on, and they reported it here. OpenAI and Apple had previously partnered to integrate AI technology into Apple's products, but the relationship began to sour after OpenAI last year acquired I.O. That was basically just like, let's get Johnny Ive in the building. There was a huge post about it was Johnny and it was Sam next to each other. And it's kind of like Johnny was like leaning on Sam's shoulder. It was like kind of like weirdly intimate a little bit. It's kind of grayed out. Could have been AI. It looked like a professional shoot. It looked like a real thing.
It was AI.
But that was posted though by OpenAI.
Oh really?
Yeah. That was like fully legit. Like, Yeah. It was like they was in press releases. They'd use it as their official thing. It was a very intimate photo. If anyone didn't see that, we haven't heard much since then. There was rumors of a new type of device. Obviously, Johnny Ive, superstar, coming in designing this. We never saw anything from that. It's gone awfully quiet on their end. I saw rumors, but maybe it's been dissolved. What's going on? Why aren't we getting any updates from it?
But very quiet about it, aren't they?
Very quiet about it. That kind of sort of rivaled up the relationship a little bit. Is it a rival product? Is the OpenAI phone coming out? There was a bunch of rumors around OpenAI phones, X phones, and yeah, it's we haven't really heard much from them since. But Apple has alleged in its lawsuit more than 400 of its former employees now works at OpenAI. It said it had received no response from OpenAI in February after contacting the startup to warn it of an internal investigation into the potential theft of Apple's trade secrets. OpenAI said Apple's lawyers had emailed the wrong person after confusing 2 Asian last names and claimed they had a discussion with our general counsel, which they now conceded never happened. The startup said Apple had never raised the specific allegations in this lawsuit at that time, and in fact told us that they were resolving any issues. We then heard nothing for 5 months until they sued them. And as I say, these screenshots are everywhere. You can see them on the timeline. We put them out. It's a back and forth between Apple's legal counsel and then 2 individuals from OpenAI. I think they're named here in the article. Apple alleged in its lawsuit that Chang Lu, a former employee who had worked on some of its most sensitive product development programs, accessed Apple's trade secrets after leaving the company in January. However, OpenAI said Apple employees had themselves contacted Lu and asked for his help to locate this information, something the iPhone maker only now admits. Apple also named in its lawsuit a second former employee, OpenAI's chief hardware officer, Tang Tan, whom it accused of seeking out proprietary information when interviewing Apple's employees. Tang has always been clear with the team that we do not want and must not use any confidential information from other companies, wrote OpenAI. And on Monday, Apple sought a preliminary injunction in the US to prevent former employees and OpenAI from accessing, using, or disclosing its trade secrets. 2 giants clashing it out. I do think that these type of espionage activities are kind of always happening. We just don't see that many of them.
This has been a very public one.
Yes.
OpenAI came up with their internal article being the heading is "Apple is getting this wrong."
Yeah. That's the one with the screenshots in.
It is, yeah. Very, very, kind of.
Very direct.
A lot of people are saying it's pretty manipulative. The kind of deception in this article is is crazy, but then a lot of people have kind of praised it and said, this is great that you almost standing up for something and just kind of openly saying this, yeah. They're not kind of tiptoeing around this kind of weird comms issue. They are just saying this is you guys are getting this wrong because of these reasons.
The blog post strategy becoming very popular. The blog post strategy. Maybe if there's any feuds out there, all you have to do to get the high ground is just write a blog post, post it on X, maybe pay a bunch of engagement accounts to engage the hell out of it, take over the timeline, everyone supports your take, boom.
Narrative controller.
Control the narrative. Quick, if anyone's in a feud right now, have a little think about maybe you should put those thoughts down in a blog, ship it on X, pay an engagement pod to sort that out for you guys. I think it's a very easy way to win an argument.
Yeah, nice.
Next time you find yourself in one, just remember that.
One which was potentially this exact strategy, I don't know. Signal comes out and says, the only commentary I have on this post is that ChatGPT didn't use the correct shade of blue for iMessage. AGI is perhaps further away than we thought. Sad face. So maybe that was hey, Signal, have a bit of cash. Just kind of pump this one into your network and go and get us 69,900 views.
69K as well for the meme post. It took over timeline for a little bit, as it obviously would. Why would it not? It's 2 giants scrapping it out. But as I say, if you want to see the screenshots, go to our X account. You can find them there, and you can see the name confusion there. I've seen the screenshots. I think that the name confusion thing is actually a bit of they kind of throw up like a smoke screen, in my opinion. They say 2 Asian names. It's the names aren't similar at all. It's not we actually mix it Well,
there were comments on the OpenAI tweet saying the deception in this is thorough.
Yeah. They didn't
they-
need to say like two Asian names. Like it could have easily just been two names.
names,
Because the two names are like completely different. So there's no need to define like
Sure.
the ethnicity of said names, in my opinion. But that is that's current argument. We'll see how it will. I'm not sure if they've responded properly yet to the
That is
blog
the lay of the
post.
land.
It only broke yesterday. So I assume that the legal army is getting riled up now. Their typewriters are firing up and they're coming back with maybe another viral blog post. Who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
Apple will drop one on the timeline, of which I would love to see, because we will cover that as well.
Indeed. But MetaView AI agent for winning teams, the agentic recruiting platform built for radically efficient hiring end-to-end. Source, engage, and hire better with AI agents that truly get your brief. Go to metaview.ai. This was a great article from Forbes. Let's pull this up. Do you want to go through it?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's have a look at this bad boy. Oh, sorry, me. Who else would you be talking to? Elon Musk says he'd give Mel Gibson $100 million for an accurate Odyssey. I did see this on the timeline. Actually, there was a back and forth on X, and Musk. This whole agreement was done on X.
The global newsroom.
So yeah, so Elon Musk, he tweeted. I think he atted Mel Gibson. I'm not sure if it was him who atted him or someone else atted him, like, at Elon Musk, can you give Mel Gibson? If you can try and find it, have a look. So this 100% happened. This was where the deal was brokered.
Yeah, okay.
But
We'll read the first paragraph, because it says.
For those coming in, Elon Musk is ready to pay $100 million to remake the Odyssey accurately. Obviously, it would be Musk that would take this on his chest. The Odyssey is setting critical and box office records in various categories nearly every day, but there remains a large subsection of social media users, mostly found on X, who remain dead set against the film. One of those users, it's the site owner, Elon Musk, who has previously said that Chris Nolan has lost his integrity. There's a bunch of different points here about the cast, about the backgrounds, about how accurate this is. I'm kind of hoping that it doesn't give anything like specifically away about the film itself, because I know the Odyssey story, but I haven't actually seen the film, so I'm just going to be like slightly
You'll be fine.
cautious when I'm going through this. But Musk is making new claims about the film, showing off a Grok-created Odyssey, and then saying before this year ends, Grok Imagine will make a full-length movie of the Odyssey. That is historically accurate and true to the art of Homer. This has already been done with a different AI-created Odyssey film that has been getting a lot of negative attention. Musk also seems open to the idea of giving money to a human director, responding to posts that he wants Musk to give director Mel Gibson $100 million to make a historically accurate Odyssey. To which Musk answered, "I'm down." Many users noted that Gibson is not exactly a beacon of historical accuracy with his films like Braveheart, Apocalypse is a great film, The Patriot, The Passion of Christ, and more. Will any of this happen? A Grok AI movie, a Gibson feature? Musk says many things, and occasionally he delivers. I'm thinking of the financial report he gave actress Gina Carano, who was fired from the Mandalorian for social media posts, when he said he would do so for those fired for freedom of speech on his site. Can the Odyssey be made with AI, I guess, is one of the main questions here.
It asks, yeah, will this actually happen? Is a
What
Grok
camp are you
AI
in?
movie possible? Yes, I am.
Today,
Yes.
you think you can make an Odyssey film today?
Yes.
Grok, that you would watch for 2.5 hours?
Reluctantly, yes. I mean, you said can it make it? Full stop.
Okay. Sorry.
Will it do as well as the Odyssey that Christopher Nolan has made? No. Would it do as well if Elon Musk was the director? No. But
Oh yeah, he can't. Yeah, he cannot direct this, surely.
And Christopher Nolan's not going to do anything on Grok, making any AI movies. He doesn't even have a phone. He doesn't use emails.
Really?
Yeah, he doesn't use emails.
I didn't know.
People print his emails out.
That's insane. No way.
Yeah,
I did not
he
know
has
that.
he has a flip phone. He says the resurgence of the QR code is being bad because he can't QR code anything.
Oh, is that his main use case for his phone? The QR code? I mean,
Maybe
I'm
not,
sure
but
there's a lot of other things.
text and calls, whatever. But Yeah. He's definitely not going to be making an AI movie anytime soon.
So I think we're so far away from.
Okay, so Musk has
It actually
said many
does.
things, and occasionally he delivers. I'm thinking the financial support he gave actress Gina Carano, who was fired from The Mandalorian, for the social media post when he said would do so for those fired for freedom of speech on his site. I think he would just pull an Avengers Assembled team of of people backing him in the creative space, and it's doable. It's doable. There's enough AI people on X. There's enough creatives like actors, actresses, directors. Merge all those two together, all those four together. Boom. An Odyssey made by Grok.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm for this.
I have to enjoy it. It has to be a film that I would sit through for that long and enjoy.
Well, look, the story is
main
great.
thing.
I think pretty realistic. Like, regardless of how realistic it looks, which I think is you'd be surprised how realistic it would look. The story just basically copied the story of Christopher Nolan's Odyssey.
You probably just
You're going to enjoy.
File in there.
You're going to enjoy it because of that. I think some of the parts of the script was a little bit tacky, so maybe just rip a few things out. Sorry, Christopher, but I think you could definitely create something fairly enjoyable. If you just took an incredible movie, so you don't need any kind of creative direction here in terms of script making and pacing of movie and all of these kind of creative technical stuff within the movie and how these things work. I have no idea. And then put it into Grok. That's it. That's a beautiful AI cake of amazingness.
I think you're overestimating the capabilities.
I'm too AI pilled.
Maybe slightly too. But I do think if he was to give Mel Gibson $100 million, obviously they could recreate something. I don't actually know what. I think it's on track to do $1 billion in sales and views and everything like that. I think it's well on. Wow, this is breaking news. What on earth?
AI Luke is drinking in. It looks a little bit like Venice, I think.
Who has done this?
Have you put it to Venice? Is this in Venice?
It does look like Venice.
What did you say? Just AI Europe background. No, I know, but where is it? It looks Venice-esque. Currently in Venice, wearing one of Chamath's jumpers. Drinking, I don't know, what looks like a very nice white wine.
That's a great setup.
Yeah.
That's a very nice setup.
I'd happily do that. Anyway, should we move on to the bangers of the day? One of which was that, actually.
Before we do that, let me tell you guys about some of our friends. First one is Base, the infrastructure of the on-chain world. Base is built to empower builders, creators, and people everywhere to build apps, grow businesses, create what they love, and earn on-chain. Go to base.org. And whilst I've got you here, I want to tell you about MetaView as well. AI agents for winning teams. It's the agentic recruiting platform built for radically efficient hiring, end-to-end, source, engage, and hire better with agents that truly get your brief. Go to MetaView to get all that good stuff over there.
And we're going hard.
We always are. We always are. We could maybe take a look at the bangers of the day.
Let's
today.
go to bangers of the day.
Let's see what we've got going over there.
It.
Pull the first one up. So, first banger of the day. I honestly think away.
Sorry, second banger of the day. Max has already pulled out a good banger of the day.
Sorry, that was obviously a banger.
Me in Venice.
No, of course.
With the Chamath jumper.
That was a banger, of course.
Very warm jumper, actually. Thanks, Chamath.
We can pull up this one. This is for Maya Mur. This is just something that floated onto the timeline recently. Maya Mur says, so nobody can come up with counterfeit cars. I really don't mind driving a Lamborghini Eurosco or a Ranger Rovovo. I should just be able to afford it. Sorry, struggled to get that one out for a second there. Yep, great take. I think I don't know if I would be that keen.
I'd happily drive a Rolls Choice.
Maybe you can scroll down and find some of these. To be fair. Oh yeah, this is from Nelson. Nelson X, just to be serving Happily drive a Rolls-Royce. I am not sure. Would you drive a Rolls-Royce? I have a feeling you wouldn't drive a Rolls-Royce.
I'm not driving a Rolls-Royce, unfortunately.
I think you'd want to be.
It's either between a Rolls-Royce or like an old 911.
Which one are you going?
Probably be similar prices, I assume. If Rolls-Royce, say that's on average £200,000.
But a Rolls-Royce would be 20,000.
Exactly.
So
I could probably buy maybe not 20,000.
Rolls-Royces.
I could buy 2 Rolls-Royces for the 911 that I'd probably want.
But I'm assuming you'd obviously just rather want a 911.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't.
So
even drive,
Rolls-Royce, game over.
I can't even
not happening.
Drive anything. That wouldn't be legal.
You're not part of this conversation.
No. Maybe we can talk about bikes, maybe like cyclist bikes. I can join into the conversation. That is the first banger of the day, though.
Second
that we uncovered on the timeline. Second banger of the day. So this is a little bit of a deeper one. Sorry, third banger of the day. I forgot. This is interesting. This is actually off the back of. To be honest, this is like less a banger of the day. It's more of like a really sort of interesting educational piece on like talent retainment. It is also a banger of the day, just in terms of like its positioning and how what Matt here is trying to say. But Daria is reportedly worried that some new Anthropic hires are there for the money, not the mission. That is what we're having Axios reports coming on later to talk about. Facebook had a version of this problem around 2020. I like what Mark did. Much of the original product crew had left or was leaving, and goes on to list like some of the greats. Meanwhile, Facebook was filling up with very smart professional managers, a new executive bench, and a flood of ex-Googlers. Mark's answer wasn't a lecture about the mission. He bought small companies for their founders, wound down all of their products, their companies. He basically just bought them, closed them, and had those founders come and run really important parts of Facebook. And he goes on with like Brett Taylor, Justin Schaefer, Sam Lessin, Gokul as well, Lucy Zhang. Some incredible profiles on there coming in to just run incredibly important parts of the Facebook company at the time, the Facebook, and now the Facebook. Zuck said it plainly in 2010. We have never once bought a company for the company. We buy companies for excellent people. The key wasn't the acquisition, it was the trust. And that's kind of that's a nice way. If I'm, it's hard to maybe compare that time, that era to now.
There's zero chance you can do that now, because the founder that you'd be acquiring would have just gone to go and raise a $500 million minimum dollar kind of pre-seed round. You know what I mean? Like it's virtually impossible because you're now. You'd be acquiring them for like, I don't know, crazy money.
Yeah. I guess like acquisition prices on those acquisitions would be far too high to go and do like a load.
Just the multiples alone are just way too high to just go and do this. That's the thing with the kind of that era. That era was there was so many SaaS businesses that you could kind of just kind of hoover up. And they still are. Look at Bending Spoons, right? There are an incredible amount of businesses that have been very, very overfunded from that period. They maybe didn't sell in 2021 kind of time. Right? I mean, literally look at Airtable. Didn't sell in 2021, which I assume they probably had offers around the 10 kind of double-digit billions. Didn't do that. Spent 5 years kind of grinding away and slowly falling profits and revenue and just kind of staying pretty flat in terms of everything else, and then get snapped up. And so Bending Spoons is taking the advantage to go and do that. And I assume that was possible for Zuck in those days. But now I just don't think that's possible.
Yeah, but also I feel
it's a good point. It's a very good point.
If like this caliber of talent, like Brett Taylor's, Gokul's,
sure,
it would be so easy for them to go and raise their own huge round. Like back then, I think it would have been slightly harder to get access to capital, right? There's probably
I don't think it would have been. It wouldn't be huge.
What
the rounds that they, as in like maybe huge at that time, I guess, but like right now, pre-seed rounds are their magnitude's higher than.
But that's what I'm saying. It'd be so enticing for them not to join if this was happening today. Like, I'm going to buy your company, then come on board. Like, yeah, cool, I'll come on board. But as soon as I vest, like, I'm going to go raise my own round the size of this company and just, go and do this on my own, but I'll be CEO.
Yeah.
Like I feel that that's maybe, it's cool, but I don't think we can take lessons from 2010 over to now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's what Matt Van Horn's saying, right? It's like that's the part he says right at the end. He says the strategy even brought old product talent back. Aaron Sittig, the early Facebook designer behind photo tagging, left after 5 years. 6 months later, he returned and said the arrival of people like Lessin and Schaefer was part of what brought him back. That's the part that Zuck's playbook. Daria should study. Facebook paid founder prices, then gave employees founder scope. But I just think how enticing it is to just go and raise your own round at like a multi-billion-dollar valuation.
And how easy it would be for
$100 million valuation is very, very possible for these frontier people.
And it's just insanely easy to do as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like there's an element of struggle for sure as a founder. I mean, some people don't like to be founders; they want to be part of the mission. And not to say all of these researchers are keen to be in the founder seat.
But these are
in a population. If you look at a population, kind of relative to a population of people who work as BDRs, that population of researchers, let's say there'd be a higher proportion of those people in the researcher population that would want to go and be founders compared to like a population of BDRs in a SaaS business who'd want to go and be founders. They'd just be happy doing what they're doing in BDR. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting word. We have our guest coming in shortly. We have one more tweet to go through for today, and what is this? This is from Polymarket. Tinder halts testing of an AI feature that changed users' smiles, complexions, and facial features after users called it extremely violating. What is that? Tinder's got a new.
They had an AI feature. They had to roll it back. Super interesting. Why would you do that?
This reminds me of Clavicula's looks maxing app that he dropped recently, the AI app.
Yes.
Who we have also tried to
secure.
Drop a message and maybe talk about what does that app look like? How does it work?
Yeah.
Still waiting
maybe do a partnership with Tinder, according to Polymarket. Might as well. They're clearly trying to get into the AI space, so maybe we can make it happen. Anyway, Polymarket, the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com. Let's bring our first guest into the studio if we can. I believe we have them in.
I do want to pick the banger of the day. I'm sorry, I just have to give it to you. If you can pull this one back up. Let me hit the suspense.
That's not the drum roll.
Mariama gets banger of the day, so nobody can come up with the counterfeit cars. I really don't mind driving a Lamborghini Urusco or a Ranger Revovo. I just should be able to afford it. It's banger of the day.
Congrats. Huge congrats. Knocking on the door of success. We love to see it.
You love to see it. Without further ado, I think we bring our first guest onto the show. How are we? I think our graphics haven't loaded yet. Just checking if you can hear us, Daria.
Hello?
Can you hear us, Daria?
No. I assume she can't see us either. That was good.
Our producer is on the case as we speak right now. Sam, what do we think? How's
We trying your laptop?
Are we?
We're working on it, guys. We're working on it.
Okay, you do your thing. The infrastructure for the on-chain world. Base is built to empower builders, creators, and people everywhere to build apps, grow businesses, create what they love, and earn on-chain. Go to base.org.
Let's go,
Guys in the
Base.
studio absolutely love Base, and we do too.
They love Base. And while we're waiting for this, let's just, for those joining the stream right now, I can pull up the World's agenda and just quickly go through who we've got on stage. This is Daria Saharova. She's joining us imminently. We're just getting over a small technical difficulty. Managing partner at WorldFund, calling in for everything they're doing over there. Alexandru, Voica, head of corporate affairs and policy at Synthesia, friend of the show, been here since day one. Was here on launch day when we first launched, and is also here on launch day when we relaunched ETN as well, which is great. We've got Ross McNairn coming in at 1:30, CEO of Wordsmith AI, talking about their extension of Series B, what's going on in the legal AI market. Also, Paul Bonnet, general partner at 20VC, breaking down bending spoons. Who were the winners? Who weren't the winners? He basically dropped a profile on X, basically outlining the full acquisition with
I can't hear
an Excel sheet. And we're excited to welcome him on. Rob Hadick, after that, general partner at Dragonfly, breaking into everything that is cybersecurity today. A lot of stuff that we covered this morning on the news will be the topic of conversation. Stefan Weitz, co-founder and CEO at HumanX, coming on to talk everything European data, AI, and venture capital. They just launched a collaboration with Crunchbase that you can see the report on there. It's live right now. And then the man himself, Sam Hogg, at Disco Diplomacy, head of policy engagement at Oxford China Policy Lab, coming in to talk about the AISI debate, the debacle, the timeline that we saw today, all the narrative that's going on around that. And then Madison Mills, timeline and scoop legend, senior AI reporter at Axios, will be joining us to talk about the loyalty problems in the AI talent wars today. Surprise, surprise. There are loyalty problems. We'll bring you guys back to the studio now. Just going to check in with our main man to see how we're getting on. I think we are
working out a solution
because that's what we do here over at ETN. In other news, I want to walk you guys through Elon Musk. SpaceX unnerves investors with lavish AI spending plans. A lot of conversations around what's going on with SpaceX. We'd seen that the stock had a meteoric rise on launch day. A lot of people excited to jump in. There was a lot of discourse around, are the bags being unloaded onto retail? I can't remember what the listing price was, but it absolutely pops.
And this FT article was actually bonkers. Like completely surpassed analyst expectations by kind of order of magnitude, like almost like 4 times better than they predicted. It says SpaceX shares dropped in pre-market trading on Wednesday after Elon Musk plans for blockbuster spending to position his AI and rocket company as a data center developer spooked investors. SpaceX surpassed analyst expectations in Tuesday's budget debut earnings report, posting quarterly revenues of $7.8 billion, well above the estimates of $6.82 billion, and up 92% from a year earlier. Insane. It posted a net loss of about $541 million, which is better than estimates of $2.12 billion. That's insane. Like just proving how bonkers this is. I mean, investors spooked right at the beginning. Earnings report just completely wipes them out of the water. Shares in SpaceX fell more than 10% after it reported capital expenditure of almost $16 billion on AI, double the previous quarter and well above Wall Street expectations. It said spending would persist at current levels for at least 2 more quarters. But then net loss, the margins are kind of closing. Net loss is only just under $500 million, which is kind of nothing compared to expectations. The earnings report comes after SpaceX raised $86 billion in a historic initial public offering in June that was underpinned by expectations that will generate meteoric revenue growth in the coming years. SpaceX shares initially surged, but they have shared almost half their value from a peak of $225 in the week after going public. Musk told investors on an earnings call that the group planned to increase its computing capacity from 2 gigawatts at the end of this year to closer to 10 gigawatts instead of 5 gigawatts, which he was going to that was the plan. Now it's closer to 10 by the end of 2027. Speaking kind of investors there, each gigawatt of new capacity costs tens of billions of dollars to develop, with the bulk of that spend on chips. Musk announced that he would rely exclusively on NVIDIA hardware in future infrastructure development. I just think it's so bonkers. we're increasing capex by like almost double, and our net profit is still way like 4 times below what analysts are expecting. Like that's just like, you know, let this guy cook.
On Musk is that there was a great take I saw from. We know that he loves just like smashing stuff out on X all the time.
He does. 16 tweets a day on average, apparently.
Yeah. And I think it's more. I think it's like when the stats came out, I think it was something like more than 1 an hour.
Okay.
Across 24 hours. So like including, you know, sleep time is included in that average per hour. But the fact that he previously hasn't been running like has been moving quite loose around like what he's tweeting out. He's not really that bothered about how it affects the stock price. Like he's been in loads of trouble with his writings and tweets when he was at Tesla, like a number of different times. Likes to meme it. What should the share price of Tesla list at? Should it be $420? Like, should we do it on the 20th of the 4th? Like a bunch of different stuff, which one gets people like slightly unsettled. So we're kind of seeing it with Trump now, actually, the same way that he's kind of moving markets with tweets. But some guy basically said like, can someone tell bro that he's the CEO of a publicly listed company? Like, not that he hasn't like already with Tesla, but now it's kind of like 2, and it's like, hey man, like when you tweet out like SpaceX going to do $1 trillion revenue this year, which is like something he tweeted out, obviously the stock's going to go up. like retail investors would see that and be like, oh, not that they would move markets, but even a traditional like large institution would probably that would entice them to maybe purchase this stock. Like,
yeah, I don't really know how it works, but
there are a lot of fumbles. But like obviously that's going to move a market. Like obviously him tweeting now is going to move the stock price probably up. Mm-hmm. You have to assume that like surely there should be like a guardrail there with like the way that information's passed on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think obviously he's very famous for just not really caring and being very direct in terms of like his communication. It was on so Snapchat had their earnings call, and he was talking a lot. He basically, they said, oh, how the sales of
I think we're good.
Are we good?
I'm getting word that we can bring our guest into.
Yeah, so we're actually getting Alex on instead, just while we fix some issues with Daria.
We're getting Alex on. Okay. As in, what do you mean?
Oh, Alexandru is here. Oh, amazing. Right. I think I meant Alex. I was like, I'd love that, but like, what? Yeah, we could talk about like.
What are you going to talk about?
All of our stuff that we're doing internally. Let's do it. Hello, sir. How are you?
There he is.
Hello. How's it going?
Dude, really good. This is a fun moment. First time on the show. When we were introducing you, we were saying you've been here since day one. First guest ever. You helped us get Victor on the show, and now on the second phase helped us again, and now we get to host you as well. So a special moment for us. We hope you enjoy your stay here on the European Technology Network.
My 10 minutes of fame, yes. No, I'm really glad that you guys exist. I'm glad the show keeps going and it's growing. It's great to see everything you've done so far.
Legend. Thank you, sir. Well, look, let's get into it. I know we're here to talk about Article 50. We had Dom Hallis in the studio the other day just talking very high level about the EU AI Act. What does it mean? How is it being rolled out? Like, what are the implications across enterprises, developers, like innovation, like all this kind of stuff? So I think a lot of us to dig into. Maybe if we could start from your understanding of what you've seen, like Article 50. Can you like break it down for us? Like, what are we actually discussing here?
Yeah, Article 50 is one of the most interesting parts of the AI Act, in my view, because it creates, similar to GDPR, it creates these responsibilities between providers and deployers. So you can think of providers as the companies that develop the AI systems, and you can think of deployers, the companies that adopt those systems and obviously use them, put them in front of people. And just like GDPR has kind of requirements for data controllers and data processors, the Article 50 of the AI Act has these rules you have to follow if you are an AI provider, and has a separate set of rules if you're an AI deployer. And so Synthesia is an AI provider, and we were part of the workshops that the European AI Office organized over the last 6 months to figure out how to implement these rules into something that works. And then we obviously provided feedback for deployers, because we have so many customers worldwide that are using our platform. We have some of the world's largest businesses using Synthesia, and they want to understand, how can they comply with these rules, and we're working with them to kind of help them. And so we gave feedback from a provider point of view, but we also shared some insights that we heard from our customers for deployers. It's been an interesting process. So over the last month, the European AI Office has released 2 resources to help everyone. One is the Code of Practice. So the Code of Practice essentially takes the legal text and expands it into over 30, 40 pages of recommendations of this is how, if you're going to be compliant, this is how you achieve that compliance. And then they also released some guidelines, which is, again, 30, 40 pages of resources that give you some practical examples of this is how, this is what good sort of looks like, and this is what you shouldn't be doing if you're a provider or a deployer. And yeah, it was an interesting experience to kind of be part of all of that. I think it was my first sort of interaction with the European AI Office. But what's interesting is that these rules are obviously applicable in the EU, but other countries around the world are looking at very similar rules. So you have the UK. I've been a part of some workshops in the UK around kind of similar topics. You have certain states in the United States. So at the federal level, there's not a lot of regulation, but big states like California and New York have adopted very similar rules to the EU when it comes to like almost copies of Article 50. There's the California AI Transparency Act that's almost a copy of Article 50. And then you have other countries like India, Japan, and South Korea that are very similar rules. So this is becoming a very global regulatory framework beyond the EU.
I have loads of questions about this. Firstly, so you said that California and New York are implementing or have implemented similar, similar, what would we call this, like a rollout and act, a sort of guidelined way to manage what we're dealing with. Do you know roughly when was that? Was that inspiration from the framework that we were developing in Europe? We'd be keen to know what they're doing around that.
So California very much worked closely with the European AI Office. Several Californian regulators were involved in that process. And so if you read the California AI Transparency Act, it's very similar. In some parts, it's almost identical to Article 50 of the AI Act. Wow. New York took a slightly different approach. So New York has a kind of more targeted regulation, which only kind of affects advertising. So only if you're creating AI content for advertising, you have to be transparent that you've used AI. Whereas the rules in California apply to obviously all content, as do the rules in the EU. So in the EU, if you're making content with AI, you have these transparency obligations, which we can go through. All content, no matter if it's advertising or whatever it is, as long as it's been generated with AI, you have to be transparent. In New York, and that applies in California. In New York, it's just for advertising, and similar in Texas. In Texas, it's only if you're a public institution. So if you're a public institution, you're creating content with AI, you have to be transparent. It doesn't apply to kind of the private sector yet. So yeah, different states have kind of different rules, but California is the closest aligned with the EU.
Yeah. Practically, what are those kind of like elements of things that you have to be transparent about, I'm curious practically what that actually means for a company maybe like Synthesia, to be fair.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, you have a number of obligations if you're an AI provider. So if you're an AI provider, the kind of main obligations are first and foremost, you have to be transparent to people that they're interacting with an AI system. So if people are interacting with any type of AI system, whether it's a chatbot, whether it's AI video, AI audio, images, whatever it is, you have to inform the user that in an accessible way that they are interacting with AI. So that's obligation number one. Obligation number two is you have to mark content that's been generated with AI. So if you're creating AI video, AI audio, AI images, or even AI text, you have to put a mark on it. So marking, you have various options. There's one industry standard called C2PA, which adds a bit of metadata to each file. So if you're creating an image, there's a bit of metadata that you add to that image or a video or audio, and then anyone can see that metadata and you can see where and how it was created. So it kind of gives you some provenance. Or you can do what Google has done, which is you can implement something like SynthID. So for every pixel in an image, you can add a little sort of invisible watermark, and Google has this technology called SynthID. So that's obligation number two. And obligation number three is that you provide an AI detector so that anyone can check if a piece of content has been generated with AI. So if you're a researcher and you come across a video online, you can download that video, you can upload it into these public the detectors, and you can see was it created with Synthesia, was it created with other platforms, and so on. So those are the applications for the providers. For the deployers, so these are the companies that are using these systems, they have to label the content. So you have to put like a little label in the corner of the video to say this has been AI generated. So those are kind of roughly the main ones.
Question then off the back of that. Like, I feel that there was two main responses when the discourse kind of caught up to the EU AI Act like rolling out, and naturally we had very European, like regulation first, yada yada, like that type of positioning. I think it's ironic now that we're even seeing like people in the White House start to think a little bit more seriously about regulating AI, the Pacing the Frontier article, Trump bringing in a bunch of the different labs to understand like, okay, what sort of pre-testing rollouts do we need to do? I know he's not done it that's not including US domestic open source models, but the frontier labs are still included, so they are thinking about regulation. Why? Like, it seems like Europe was kind of first to this conversation in a way. Like, how do you feel that the overall response from it has been? Like, the obvious argument is, do we slow down on innovation here, basically?
Yeah, I think being first doesn't necessarily mean being right. And there are essentially two ways of approaching regulation from my point of view. There's the rules-based regulation, and that's very much the AI Act. So you get a bunch of fixed rules, and you have to comply. You have to do the work to comply with them. Obviously, the advantage of an approach like that is if the rules are clear and if the rules are easy to comply with, it kind of works. And a lot of people, for example, make comparisons with other industries like the automotive industry. The problem with those comparisons, the reason why they don't hold up is if you think about the car, it hasn't fundamentally changed in the last century. Like the car has been, two wheels, a steering wheel, maybe there've been some improvement in terms of like, you have cruise control, and now you're starting to have these kind of like self-driving functionality. But by and large, the car hasn't changed in the last century. And so regulating in a kind of rules-based way for a car is pretty straightforward. AI, however, changes every, it used to be every year, now it's every month. So every month or every few months, you have new paradigms, new types of models, you have entire new categories of AI that are being possible that weren't possible, 6 or 12 months before.
Yeah.
And so a rules-based system doesn't really work very well, in my view. So, for example, when the AI Act was drafted, or was being drafted a few years ago, everyone was kind of going on about compute thresholds, and compute thresholds were introduced in the AI Act as a measure of, is this system, potentially kind of be high risk. The problem with that approach is no one who's serious talks about compute thresholds anymore. So that has become very outdated, yet it still remains a core part of the AI Act. And there are several parts of the AI Act that are kind of like this, that are, they were relevant a few years ago, but are completely irrelevant now. And so, is this the best way to do it? My argument is probably not. Probably the best way to do it is to what's called an outcomes-based approach to regulation, which is you tell people what you don't want to have. So, for example, we don't want to have apps that undress people. I think as a society that's not beneficial to society. We don't want to have cybersecurity attacks. We don't want to have fraud. So you update existing laws, and then you sort of say that these are the outcomes that we want, and let companies work with the public and the private sector to achieve those outcomes and build much more secure and safe AI. And that's what the UK has done. So the UK has updated existing regulation to this date, rather than went for a very rigid kind of rules-based approach. And it seems like that approach has been the kind of winning formula in the US, in the UK, and other jurisdictions, versus the EU's kind of quite rigid rules-based approach.
Yeah. I want to understand how, so when a new model is released, or when new kind of like benchmarks are released in terms of, a lab kind of releases their data on benchmarks, or however changing, open weight models are getting in terms of performance, say like Kimi releases its model. What happens, like how far do the regulations get in terms of being 100% like, correct and right? You say they need to change all the time. Is it just a kind of perpetual loop of like things that just need to get updated pretty much daily and all the time? Like how far are we away all the time from having regulations that are almost 100% solid and correct? Because they will never be, because of how fast everything is moving. But yeah, I'm interested in the delta between where they are when the new model is released, and then where, how far are we away from them being like, perfect?
Yeah, this is actually a very interesting sort of tension between, access and building something reliable. Yeah. And so one of the challenges that you have right now around the world is that only a handful of institutions have access to these models to test them before they're released. And so, which is good from the point of view of, it's good that this is happening, but perhaps it's not as good from the point of view of like, how do you ensure that the measurement science, like the benchmarking science, is accurate when only a small number of people are doing it? Of course, obviously, those people are very trustworthy, and we appreciate the work they're doing. But if you want to build a assurance market, if you want this technology to be deployed broadly, you really need to have a broader ecosystem of players, working here. And so that means that AI companies need to essentially give access to more independent third-party auditors, right? And so there's this tension right now between like, do we continue along this kind of path of only a small number of hand-picked individuals get to do this work, or do we, just like other markets and other industries have moved towards the kind of broader ecosystem, where these checks are allowed more broadly? And so there's no perfect answer is essentially the answer. Yeah, I'm sure. But I think if we want broader adoption, we should try to move more towards a more open ecosystem as opposed to the closed one we have right now.
Connected to this then, how do you, because yes, I think it's easy to, like when you mention, I think it was proposed in 2021 initially, the EU AI Act, and then like we're seeing it kind of roll out like 5 years later. Those first five, like you ask anyone in the AI world, and it's like 5 years is an eternity of time. It's an insane amount of time, and I think the acceleration in terms of the compounding research that's happening right now and how fast the curve is climbing, those 5 years could be maybe 6 months in sort of in the time that we're in now. Is there a way then in which, and we were kind of getting hints of this from Peter, the AI capability lead at Arena, who we had on the other day. He was saying internally, like the benchmarks the past few years, like yes, occasionally when a frontier lab would drop a new model, it might, beat a couple of benchmarks and blah, blah, blah. He's saying now it's just like frontier models and open source models are just constantly smashing their benchmarks, which in my view is like a test on how capable, like obviously how capable the model is. But is there a point then in which there is, surely in that regard, then we would get to a point where you can't really contain in a regulated sense or a paused sense, because the speed is just is you can't keep up with it essentially. Like, do you have any like ideas of like how does a Europe, a community like the European Commission, how are they able to contain such a pace? Is it surely impossible, right?
I think this is again one of the challenges that Europe has created for itself, which is on one hand it wants to be a great adopter of AI technology. If you hear from the leadership at the European Commission, they talk about Europe becoming an AI continent or the first AI continent.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it keeps introducing legislation that slows down AI adoption. I mean, you can frame it however you like, but the reality is that regulation like the AI Act and regulation like CADA. CADA is this kind of attempt at building kind of sovereign capability, but in essence, it slows down AI adoption. And I want to give you a very clear example of this, because I'm from Romania, and Romania has had in the last month 2 major scale cybersecurity attacks that have brought down large parts of its public infrastructure, like the equivalent of like HMRC in Romania was taken down, including the land registry. Database. And these attacks Romania is just one example. These things are happening at scale, not just in Europe, but around the world. And there are, state actors that are using these AI models to increase the speed and the scale of these attacks. When you're building a regulatory system that essentially ensures that you have limited access or slower access to these cutting edge models, you essentially cut yourself from the very defensive capability that could fight off such attacks. So, for example, in the case of a cybersecurity incident, Hugging Face, when they were attacked by that model from OpenAI, they had to use a Chinese model to sort of defend themselves, because the American models had those kind of safety guardrails turned on. And so Europe, if the US is going to struggle with this and they have access to the latest and greatest technology, Europe has no such company, like homegrown company, developing models at that kind of level of capability. And by introducing legislation that kind of cuts you off from other countries, if you're just relying on what you have inside of Europe, but what's inside of Europe is not good enough, you are essentially becoming more vulnerable to these attacks. So I think we need to be very careful about, when we're talking about sovereign AI, we need to be very careful that we don't create this kind of isolationism that cuts us off from the best technology. We of course want to build capability ourselves, but we still want to leave the door open and not kind of cut ourselves from, for example, from American models to be able to build better defenses.
Yeah. I think we align with that as well. We've said it multiple times on the show, but the European, well, not like just European sovereignty, but like European like tech sovereignty. I think it's important to put tech in there. Has always sounded like, to me personally, like, hey, let's use, in this particular instance with AI, let's say, like, let's use less capable models to do work. Like, let's cut ourselves off from the creme de la creme, the best of the best, and let's use like something homegrown and internally. That to me makes no sense, because yes, then you can stand up and be like, look at us, we're being super sovereign, like, yay everyone, like look how sovereign we are. but then you just get steamrolled, or you'll get left behind, or then you're incredibly prone to an offensive attack, and your defensive capabilities are not at a level that are required to defend against such a such a sophisticated attack. So that, to me, makes no sense. I don't know if that's controversial to say. Maybe it is for Europeans. I don't know, but that stuff, for me personally, has never made any sense.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think it's controversial to say. I think the best approach to sovereign AI is to build the best AI possible in the world. So not just to build the best AI for Europe, but to build the best AI system at every layer of the stack. So to have the best AI applications, the best AI models, the best AI data centers, the best renewable energy across the stack, to be the best, to try to be the best. Of course, you're not going to be able to be the best everywhere, but if you're a best or good enough in several pieces of that AI stack, that's how you achieve sovereignty, not by trying to kind of contain everything and cut yourself off from what's being built outside Europe.
Yeah, 100%. We're aligned.
Alexandru, we are slightly over, which is very typical whenever we have a great conversation. It's been great to have you here, and always welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you helping us out as well.
Thank you very much.
Ciao, sir. Legend. Bye. Alexandru over there at Synthesia. Great to finally make that happen. What a great guy. Next guest will coming on shortly. Before we have our next guest on, though, I want to tell you about our friends over there at BVNK, accelerating the global money. BVNK provides enterprise-grade stablecoin infrastructure for global businesses, enabling fast, compliant payments and digital asset solutions worldwide. Go to bvnk.com to get all that good stuff. Next guest, return guest, Ross McNairn over at Wordsmith AI. He's back in town. We'll be bringing him onto the show imminently, and they have just raised an extended Series B. I think the last time we had Ross on was for Series B itself. Going to be good to catch up about what's going on. What's going on in the legal world? What's going on in legal AI?
Yeah, I bet they are smashing it.
I'm trying to think when was the last time?
I remember him saying just like the growth was just like off. He's like, if you saw what's going on internally, you'd just be. We'd
heard it from other people as well. Like non-Wordsmith employees are telling us, getting the signal that Ross is ready to come into the studio. Let's get him up on that big screen over there. Ross, how's it going? Welcome back, sir.
He's back.
Very well. Hello, gents. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Very well indeed. It's good to see you again.
Yes, likewise, yeah.
Congratulations on the news, the extension. Would love to hear more. What's going on over at Wordsmith AI?
Yeah, I mean, well, we had quite a lot of overflow demand for the round, and had a bit of chat internally and decided that there were more things that we could open up and invest in. So we thought we'd extend it. We found some interesting partners who we think are quite strategic as well. And we thought, look, given the opportunity at the moment, how much of it is ahead of us and how many things we would love to do that we're having to say maybe to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll turn some maybes into yeses and double down a bit on our product, which is exactly what we're going to do now. So, I think it's just momentum keeps going. So, when it's there, let's see how far we can push it.
Indeed. Okay, what are those things that you're now turning into yeses? Exactly, like what is the opportunity that you think raising this extension allows you to go and kind of go and take with both hands and make a success of?
Yeah, so the original raise was predominantly to invest in scaling our go-to-market, move into many more markets, double down in the States, grow a bunch of forward-looking headcount in sales and marketing and things like that.
Sure.
And we're making pretty decent. I mean, all of it's a bit mad versus where we were 5 years ago, but we were only planning on doing several multiples of the number of engineers. And there were 4 projects in particular that we were very excited about, specifically around moving into how we manage intake and work across the whole business and how we start to do more of that kind of stuff and push more into our unique positioning, which is to provide an interface for legal teams to run legal infrastructure across the whole company.
Sure.
And so building that out more and catering for more use cases and more functions and expanding into more of those adjacencies is now something we're going to be much more aggressive about, because we have so much demand for it. We get a lot of teams that come to us and say, hey, it's great that you cater for general intake, but wouldn't it be brilliant if you could, allow for more specialist workflows and things like that? And so that's what we're going to double down on a lot more now. Okay. The other area that we're going to spend a lot more time on is reducing spend on external counsel. So one of the things that the opportunities that our positioning gives us is that we don't sell to law firms, which means that we don't really have a conflict of interest in trying to feed two mouths. So we can be quite deliberate about helping these corporate teams cut their spend on lawyers, external, and to reappropriate that work. And it's quite a unique thing to that isn't available to you if you're feeding both mouths. So that's going to be a huge bit of our push over the next few months. There's a lot of tooling and a lot of integrations and partners that we're going to knit very deeply into, so that when these legal teams buy AI, they are on day one going to be able to forecast the savings for the entire department as they shift spend in-house and they cut it, etc. So that's a big part of our business going forward.
With that particular part there in mind, we have covered the sort of legal AI market extensively throughout the show, watching its rise over the past sort of 3 or 4 years, just off the show as well. Can you just maybe give us some indication of these individuals, these customers that are coming to you? What is that time save and the money save? What is the old way that's getting completely ripped apart right now by the AI revolution? How big of a step change is that?
Yeah, so there are two big buckets to think about, and then a third indirect one. The first one is direct savings on the people in that legal team, how much their day, typically they don't clock off earlier. It's pretty how much extra work can they get through. I'm yet to meet a legal team that has inbox zero. There's always, even when you throw AI at it, there's still more that people want from it.
Yeah.
So it depends on the flow, but we see anywhere from 80% to on certain contracting workflows to complete deflection, which is a big difference for in-house teams. Law firms don't want to deflect work. They can't charge if it doesn't come in the door. In-house teams love deflection because that's the best place to save an issue, is just to give somebody a supervised answer themselves.
Sure.
We see some teams getting to sort of 40-50% deflection. We see some contracting workflows cut by 80%. We see other bulk analysis things cut in half. So there's a lot of opportunities to improve the efficiency there. The really exciting one, though, is external counsel, because the bigger the company gets, actually, they often spend as much on external lawyers as they do on their entire legal operation. So we've seen some teams cut that external spend by as much as 40%, which is work that previously they would have sent out to a law firm. They are now bringing it in, and they're investing in building a more developed internal legal function. They're actually hiring more lawyers, investing in more tooling. It's kind of, I used to be a CTO before this at a few different scale-ups in Europe. Engineering went through the same stuff. We used to outsource a lot. And we decided that actually building your own first-class function internally is a much better path. You're seeing a lot of teams going through that now. And then the third bucket is how they speed other people in the company up. And it's that person in revenue that now doesn't need to wait on legal for 2 weeks. Get an answer in 24 hours or instantly. And that's huge. I mean, we've seen some deal cycles cut by in half, by even more. So there's a lot of benefits to nailing legal. And once you articulate that clearly, the business case builds itself, and then they speak about it to each other.
Yeah, I was going to ask about and you kind of touched on it with the deflection kind of bucket, right? Where it's I wanted to ask the difference between, a Wordsmith selling, into internal teams compared to, an AI company selling to law firms. I'm sure you kind of get the question a lot, but, practically, what does the sell function for you guys look like that's different to someone who's selling to a law firm? And then off the back of that, how do you see this this changing the way that companies are built in terms of their like organization of, you know, the structure of the organization? Because, you know, if you're reducing the cost and the ability for a company to not need to outsource to a law firm, surely, you know, does that mean every company is able to, you know, in a certain number of years, every company is able to have internal people instead of having to outsource to a law firm for basically every job? Maybe, you know, large kind of, I don't know, corporate deals or like acquisitions, you know, of course you would maybe outsource, but all the other stuff can be internal.
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of, in some way, you've sort of hinted at the answer with the second question. So
Let's go.
yeah, I mean, look, the biggest difference is how can you have 80% of your revenue come from external law firms and then credibly sell a solution that reduces spend on them? You can't.
Yeah.
So what a lot of companies who service both do is they just sell efficiency to everybody, and then they get uncomfortable when you talk about that. And then there's this long answer that goes around in 12 different connections, and you end up in, I don't know where. We're pretty out and bad about it. You buy us, we will help you cut external spend. We will give you transparency on the work. We will help price what it would have cost to send it out, and then we will help you make deliberate decisions about when it is good and when it is bad. And then we will help you to invest in your own internal intelligence to reduce that dependency. So that is a business model difference that is only available if you service this market and this market on its own. You then have product differences, which is that a huge, you know, if you're in a law firm, you are servicing many different clients. Those clients can't have their data transfer between them. You have, you know, all sorts of, like, it goes down to a data model level. So law firms use specific products. They service many different individual clients. Whereas if you're a corporate team, you have one corporate stack and then thousands of employees. So that the structure of the actual product is very different. Now you can use either product in, but it's like wearing a misfitting suit. When you actually go and try the tailored one, you know, it just drives better. And that's the benefit of being hyper-focused on one group of people. You always want to buy the thing that's made for you, not the leftovers that's made for somebody else that happens to be marketed to you.
Yeah, that's a great quote. We need to, can we write that down in the studio, guys? We need to have that up on the wall somewhere. Ross, that was, it's so good to catch up. I know we are coming over time slightly. I know this was kind of brief. We'll have to do it again. But it's great to catch up. It's great to see you. It sounds like you guys are crushing it right now. And yeah, congrats on all the success and everything that's coming ahead.
Well, likewise. Thanks for having me, gents. And yeah, I'm sure I'll see you again soon.
Good stuff.
Ross.
Appreciate it, man.
Cheers. Have a good one.
Bye.
Nice one. Ross McNairn, everybody, CEO at Wordsmith AI, navigating the AI legal market and doing an excellent job.
Indeed, he is. Well, let's leave Outdated Business back in behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business, multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com. You didn't like the Wii Sports?
I wanted to change it back to the Sue. After that.
Indeed.
This next guest, returning guest, he has been on before and he is back again. It is Paul Bonnet at 20VC. I remember when we first had him on and I was wondering, I thought it was Paul Bonnet.
He's French.
And then, this is what happened last time.
Did you say that?
No. We had this conversation before he'd come on. You were he's French. And I was like, oh, that's all I needed to know it was Bonnet. You know, that's all. That's all I needed.
He had a banger tweet yesterday, and we're gonna deep dive into it. Everything about the Airtable acquisition by Bending Spoons and a bunch of other stuff. Dude, how's it going? So good to have you on the show.
So good to see you guys. How are you?
We're good. We are good. Look, first question off the bat. I mean, I read this tweet and I thought, God, we need to get Paul on because this was a really, really good tweet and kind of offered a lot of insight on the timeline. Can you just kind of give us like those 3 points that you kind of explain? And I've got a bunch of questions about it. So yeah, let's dive deep.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly straightforward, right? So Bending Spoons decided to acquire Airtable I think the numbers circulating were a bit all around the place, but in the end, they acquired Airtable for 2.25 billion. The problem is Airtable raised 1.35 billion.
Yeah.
And actually, the Series D, E, and F were higher valuations than the acquisition price.
Yeah.
That means
like
that
considerably higher as well.
Are claiming pref. And so when you claim the pref, you actually diminish the proceeds that are available to the common. And I think that's something most people are not really aware of. The founders are not really aware of. And what that meant is even though the Series C was actually at a price that was below the acquisition price and should have made money, because of the pref that was claimed, they also only had 1x and did not convert to the common. So really, the only people who made money were everybody coming Series B and prior.
Okay.
The thing, basically, the math tells you roughly 950 to a billion was available to people who were common on the cap table and the people who converted into the acquisition. So everybody between the seed and the Series B. So the points that I made specifically were threefold. Number one, the founders probably made a lot of money, which is great. I'm also assuming that they took off some secondary at the peak of the market. I mean, that company was valued more than 11 billion. So the acquisition is actually an 80% haircut to that valuation back from 2021.
Yeah.
But even then, the founders combined probably took north of 100 million home, probably 150.
Just quickly on that. Just quickly on that. What's the? I'm trying to understand because it is such a huge haircut off the valuation in I think it was 2021. What are the implications of that huge delta? Like, are there any other than the fact that the VCs are taking their pref?
I mean, yes, actually, there are some second order magnitude effects on a lot of VCs and LPs. The reality is, if you carried the mark of Airtable in your books at 11 billion all the way through to 2026, and you have to now say, oh shit, sorry, it's only 2.25 billion.
Yeah.
The fund and what you've marketed to your LP is very different to the reality. And so I think that is probably the core thing. But then if you reevaluated the value of your marks over time, which you should, by the way, then most likely you held it in your books at anywhere from 2 to 4 billion. And so the delta is not going to be that big. Anybody who came above the acquisition price will get covered by pref. Even the people who then suffer from that pref will get 1x back or more. By the way, I'm assuming there is no structure, but often in late stage rounds there is. And then anybody below that is still making quite a good chunk of money.
Okay. And then let's segue onto point two. I want to ask specifically about companies that have taken too much money. I want to understand from your perspective as GP at 20VC, what does that mean? Like, how can you kind of like have this mental heat map of knowing when a company, the round is, the company is raising too much money, the round's getting like almost like too hot. I think a lot of people obviously celebrate the fact that a company is raising so much money, and this clearly highlights, it's not always a great celebration. It kind of just adds a ton of more risk. Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to be around Inventor in 2021, and it makes me sound older than I am. But things were crazy. Things were absolutely crazy, and way too many companies raised at way too high valuations and way too much money for what they were doing. And basically, the acceleration that we were seeing during COVID was projected 10 years forward, and everything was priced to perfection forever. And it turns out the reality is always different from that.
Sure.
And so I think you kind of want to make sure that going forward, it doesn't happen as much. This is something we have in our heads when you do any underwriting. That's why we try to stay, I would say, relatively reasonable. That being said, the best assets have never been cheap. I do believe, though, if you take just one step back, putting north of 100 times revenue multiple on a software company with a limited TAM was always stupid. We just discovered it kind of in hindsight a little bit.
I have a question connected to this in the sense where surely we will see a bunch more of Airtables. I think that we put a graphic out about this news and it did over 200,000 impressions. Shout out to Max, actually, who's our growth associate for that one. But from our perspective, we were talking about this, off camera a bunch on the set the other day, and it's like Airtable, like they need money coming in to keep the acceleration going, whatever they're burning at the time. I'm not sure what those numbers was, but they would need more funding to survive, I guess, at higher valuations. Is it that these AI native companies are eating these sort of like bygone SaaS era B2B companies? Are the AI native companies eating their lunch and it's making them not as attractive to fund? Or like, why is this a fire sale right now? Because the delta between the valuation and the acquisition was insane.
And there were a bunch of tweets about bending spoons being like the Thanos of, kind of like collecting the Infinity Stones of SF-based companies that just raised way too much money.
I mean, in another life, they did acquire one of my companies, but I won't comment on this. The one thing I'll say is like, there are many semi-dead bodies that have been left behind from the COVID era. And a lot of people carry them at way too high marks in their books based on what we're seeing today. It's not necessarily, and we can come back to that, but it's not necessarily that the AI native companies are eating their lunch. The truth is the bar to get to the public markets has never been that high. It is not enough, and we thought it was, but it is not enough to do 500 million of ARR growing 20 to 30% year on year. And Jason Lemkin on a tweet the other day, as a take on this bending spoon acquisition of Airtable, was basically saying grow or die. And it's kind of true. The truth is, as you get to 2, 3, 4, 500 million of run rate revenue, and if you only grow like 20 to 30%, which by the way is an amazing achievement, I'm not cheating on those companies, but wait. The truth is, it's just not enough to have your destiny in your own hands as a founder and to say, I am going to go out and I am going to get to the public markets. The public markets right now are focused on outcomes such as SpaceX, OpenAI, Anthropic, Databricks, Revolut. And guess what? The truth is, if you are 500 million revenue growing 20, 30% year on year, the public markets is not going to give you a lot more than 3 to 4 times revenue. If anything, they might give you less because they will overlook you completely. And so this acquisition is actually entirely rational. I think there will be a lot more of those. By the way, I also believe that some of those B2B SaaS companies with very high quality revenue will still make great private equity acquisitions, perhaps at 6, 7, 8, 10 times revenue if they're strategic. So it's not going to be, everybody's going to lose money and it's all going to be dead, but we have to do something about them. And again, that move from bending spoons is entirely rational from their end, but it's also very rational from the shareholders.
Sure.
They'll get 1x back. They could, in theory, they could reinvest that into much better opportunities today because the speed at which those AI companies are growing is so fast that that's not necessarily eating the lunch. They are capitalizing the attention of the VC dollars, which is a different thing.
That's really interesting.
I saw a take that was basically saying a guy on the timeline, I can't remember who it was, but the tweet did some good numbers around, he said it was unfortunate to see this from Airtable. He was thinking like, why not just get the cash that they're making, build out like a small like AI SWAT team, or like scrap everything that maybe isn't giving them the growth of the numbers that they need, try and build some like internal AI unit and pivot the solution into a more AI native, very easy for a guy to sit there and tweet that behind his laptop.
They have. So the truth is, nobody saw that, but they did. So there is within Airtable, there is a company called HyperAgent, which was spun off as part of this acquisition, and that keeps living. So I don't.
But why don't they just separate the company? Like, why didn't they just do that in the first place and just go and build a different company? Like, why keep it under Airtable? Was like my, I don't.
That's a great question.
And that's why I didn't understand. I was like, why?
I will say this. Kudos to the founders for doing so, because you literally, pardon my language, but screw your investors and just go and do something else when you realize it's going to be a long slog.
Yeah, true.
They didn't. They found the solution for the business.
High integrity.
And then they spun off HyperAgent. And I have utmost respect for this. because it means there are incredible founders who are super committed, found a solution that works for most of their shareholders. Yes, as we said, it's not the best for the people who came Series C onwards and probably got 1x back. For everybody before that, they actually made a lot of money, so those people will support them and have great memories of what they've done with them. And frankly, now they can focus squarely on hyper agents, knowing that they've been great stewards of capital. Entirely respect that.
Yeah. Do you think there is anyone else that Bending Spoons is looking at right now? Like, do you feel that they're just going for a certain type of product? I don't what's that? Monday.com, I think, is another one. Like, I see them everywhere. They're on every tube advert. I've never met a single human being who's ever used them in my life. Like, I don't know what they're doing. That's one that comes.
Which one?
Like Monday.com, the CRM. Like, I see them. They're on every advert in the tube I've ever. Like, they are in my mind when I think of the tube.
Yeah,
it's obviously working.
I can only recommend. Sorry for the advert, but like I can only recommend listening to the show that Harry did with the founder the other day to find some information. I'm personally not a user, but it's true. I see the adverts everywhere. And it's basically like lightweight software for like small and mid-market companies. So to do like everything from CRM to ERP to accounting for all those companies. So
they don't just do CRM. It's ERP, EPM.
No, I believe it goes way beyond. But I'm out of my depths here slightly.
Yeah. Well, it's not a space I know that well, but yeah, I just see them everywhere. And I'm like, I've never actually met anyone who's using it.
I mean, Bending Spoons pipeline must be huge for sure. Do you think the Airtable team maybe would be like? I think we're actually talking about this in a fairly positive light, which is really good. It's a pretty good outcome for the founders, and they now have this kind of like new focus, which is great. What does do you think they look back and think, hey, like, maybe that acquisition offer in 2021, if they got one, let's just speculate here. Like, do you think a lot of founders who are in a similar position as Airtable are thinking now, damn, I should have taken that acquisition offer like back in the day? Like, what do you think about that?
So, first off, I do not know if and how much secondary the founders might have taken at the time. Maybe they de-risked and wanted to shoot for the biggest outcome possible. Sure. I think that's amazing. I encourage every founder to go as big as they can. However, you rarely get acquisition offers. And so you should always take them super seriously in the context of your valuation at that time and the opportunities ahead of you.
Yeah.
I am 90% sure that at 11 billion, they probably didn't get offers, because in my eyes, looking backwards, it's very easy to say with 5 years of hindsight, the price was stupid. And I'm not sure how strategic it was to any of the large buyers that could afford to spend 11 billion back then. However, I do think the outcome has been great for the early employees. It certainly has been great for the founders. And you can't always kind of redo the story with 5 years of hindsight. Again, I do believe this is a very positive outcome. And I read somewhere somebody that says it's really smart, but like $1 billion+ acquisition with founders making tens of millions or hundreds of millions used to be considered a great outcome. No, it doesn't. It used to be. It is a great outcome.
Yeah.
Does it fit the VC math today is an entirely other question, and the answer is probably not.
Yeah. And there's a almost like a conflict of interest there a little bit. Man, so interesting. Thanks so much for coming on. We've run out of time, but
thanks so much, guys.
You're a legend. We appreciate it, and keep crushing over there.
Always good to see you, Paul.
Bye.
Ciao.
Have a good one.
Great conversation.
Well,
absolutely.
GP 20 VC. I wanted to ask him about Alex, Harry, and him. Sort of take from Alex today is like, me, Paul, and Harry are like still running deals, by the way, during like VC summer in August.
We should have asked about that. Hey, we'll get them next time. The AI Analytics platform where team meet insights. X helps teams of all sizes give teammates the ability to get insights from their data. Get at hex.tech. Next on the show, we have Rob Hadick, general partner at Dragonfly. Do we have Rob in the studio?
I think he's coming
Let's
up
do
on
it.
the
Let's bring him in.
Big screen right about now. Probably get a nice like big screen cam one day for the guests as well.
Indeed.
Welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hey guys, doing well. How are you?
Very good, sir. Very good. I think we've been working to get this done for a while, actually.
Yeah, we've been on the emails for a little bit. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I want to talk today a lot about kind of cybersecurity and kind of what's going on in the changes in cybersecurity, how you guys are looking at it, in Dragonfly, Yeah, so I think let's start off with just generally your outlook on what's going on in the kind of cybersecurity space and how things are changing, and then we can kind of go from there, I think.
Yeah, listen, it's tough, right? So we're in this sort of period of time where because of what's happening in AI, because of the way the models are just getting so much better, so much more quickly, and they're able to actually react much quicker. So what we're seeing still is a lot of it's really a lot of the stuff that we've seen before, which is okay. Well, we're able to get into your security apparatus because somebody personally is like clicks on a phishing link or does something that they're not supposed to do. But then once they're inside the security apparatus, the ability to find the ways into the right the right pieces of data, get through the firewalls, like those types of things are happening much more quickly, and so the reaction time is much harder for any sort of security company to say, okay, well, I understand that somebody's in my security apparatus and I need to get in front of this. And so that's why we've just had such a so much. It's been probably the worst. Maybe the worst half of the year that I've ever seen in terms of just like these big, large scale hacks and it happening over and over and over again. So it's not necessarily things that are as big as like some of the Sona data hack that we saw before many years ago. But what is happening is there's so many of them. But the thing about the AI is we're now figuring out that we need to just rewrite all of this code to be able to have better security in the future. And so there's an expectation in my mind that we're likely to get we're going to be more unsafe for a number of years, maybe a year, 18 months, maybe 2. But then, we should probably be much more safe in, a couple of years because, when you're an attacker, all you have to do is find one vulnerability when all the rest of us have to do is we have to rewrite basically all of our code in a new AI world. And that takes a lot longer time.
Yeah. And I think that there was a take where it's like companies who aren't going to go and do this and kind of rewrite the code, they're just not going to survive. Are you telling a lot of the founders, who you guys have backed, that case, right? Like go and really take this pretty seriously because the next few years might be a little bit choppy.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And we do a lot of crypto investing. And so, one of the things that we've seen in crypto is we've had the most amount of hacks on smart contracts in crypto history. Again, not the highest dollar value amount, but the most amount of them. And we're essentially, after there's this big hack that maybe some of your viewers have heard about, and this thing called Layer Zero, which was working with a bunch of big names like Citadel and ICE and a bunch of others. And after that happened, we told a bunch of our companies, you're stalling for the next 30 to 45 days, and you're going to do a complete review of your entire code base and all of your operational security. Like the OPSEC is a big part of the problem right now but it's just the reaction time once the OPSEC is broken. Yeah.
And a question on, the changes within a company that need to happen, otherwise, potentially the consequences can be serious. Do you feel like they'll be over? You mentioned maybe like 18 months. Do you feel like over, say, let's go 18 months? There might be a consolidation of companies that you could, pretty drastic consolidation of companies that like don't go and make their kind of security practices good. And there'll be a consolidation of the ones that do make it very good. Do you feel like there's going to be something, in the market in the next 18 months that, we can visibly see?
It's definitely going to be a differentiator, right? So especially for, any business, one of the things that you are doing when you buy a product is you're buying trust, right? Like you trust this business with your data, with your information, maybe with, money, depending on how, what the specific thing does. And we're going to have an erosion of trust for people that don't take it seriously. And that can kill a business. We've seen that happen before. We've seen it happen time and time again. And so we're telling everybody that this is existential to the way that you operate, and it needs to be the top priority. It's going to cost money. It's going to cost time. But are certain things that you cannot cut corners on. And one of those is security, especially if you handle money, which the vast majority of our companies do.
Yeah. We saw, well, we covered earlier, it's making a lot of trending news at the moment, but the US, the White House had invited people from OpenAI, from Anthropic, and like a bunch of other different frontier labs and also open source companies to look at basically an AI legal framework. And we were joking around, like the US is regulating, like it's not just the Europeans, which is, a fun thing to see. Nice. Yeah, we could Uno reverse card for that one. But what do you think this suggests around, I guess like how seriously the country is taking this, right? Like, we are joking about the fact that it's the Europeans being, like the US is regulating, but I did kind of think like, wow, if this is a White House commandeered sort of action legal framework, I know it's not including US open models, it's just the US frontier models and then non-domestic models, both closed and open. What did you make of, I guess, that as a message in itself to be invited in and hash out this AI legal framework?
Yeah, so I spend a lot of time in DC, and I sit on the CFTC's Digital Asset Market Subcommittee. So I spend a lot of my time in DC talking about, I've been talking about like tokenization and crypto and a lot of those things in DC the last, 12 months. And what increasingly when I'm there, what I've heard is, okay, well, yeah, like tokenization, Clarity Act, that stuff matters, but what about AI? And the conversation has become so much about AI, whether it's at the regulators, whether it's at the White House, whether it's at the Senate or anywhere in Congress. And it's very clear to me that right now we're in the education stage. So Anthropic, OpenAI, a lot of the researchers are coming in and they're saying, like, here are the problems, here are the things that are happening. They're trying to understand and get their arms around what it means to be open weight versus closed weight. It's not exactly analogous to like open source and non-open source, which I think a lot of people are making that mistake. And there's also, interestingly, there's a lot of parallels to the early days of the internet. There's also a lot of parallels, actually, and I love to make this point, but this point in time in AI feels so much like 2021 in crypto, and among a bunch of the different conversations that we were having. But today it's like even the minutia of, okay, well, if we're going to have agentic finance, where like there's going to be personal finance apps that are using agents and using these models, like what happens? Who's liable if somebody makes a bad trade, or if like you make a bad investment? Like even those types of things people are trying to talk about right now. So it's really down to the minutia. I think that we've also seen the White House take some aggressive stances. I think Besant last week said, oh, actually, maybe we'll do like import-export bans on the open models. And then they came out yesterday and said, no, they're not going to regulate them. So it's clear that like the thinking is evolving, in real time. I think we'll be in a place come next year in the next Congress. So there's midterm elections in the US in November, which means, after those elections, then we'll have a new Congress come January. And I think sometime next year, AI will be probably the single most important thing on the agenda. And we'll see a lot of new legislation, and we'll see the regulators start to come out in rulemaking. But I don't think it'll happen really in earnest until, call it Q1, Q2 of next year.
Yeah. On a slightly different tangent, I'd seen a post maybe yesterday or a day prior. I can't remember who the individual is. He has a large following and he has a lot of money. And he'd basically done a post and said, I'm putting something like 4 mil in like a hard wallet. I posted like a picture of
Mike Belshi.
Okay, so you saw this.
It was the CEO of BitGo, yeah.
Okay, right. So I'm not like I've messed around with NFTs, but I wouldn't say I'm like a crypto native individual. But I've seen this post and thought this is really interesting. And also, like if this is possible, then it will cause pandemonium. But for those who maybe not have seen it, was basically I'll give someone, they can have all this money if they can hack this wallet using a specific model.
Yeah, he was like, here's $1 million of Bitcoin in this Bitcoin wallet in custody that we have. Hack it. He was like, go ahead, hack it. Right. And he was like, we'll give you the $1 million. We won't, go after you or whatever. Which sort of an insane thing to do. But he's taking the perspective that at least today, cryptography, especially verifiable cryptography with Bitcoin, is unbreakable. And we do have this there is a perspective that is true, at least pre-quantum, right? Now, the quantum risk, people have talked about it a lot with Bitcoin, like what's going to happen in a few years. You can upgrade the wallets and the hashes to post-quantum security, and that will happen, and there's already people working on that. But it has gotten people, I think, a little bit scared as they work through the quantum, what they call the quantum risk. The biggest problem is not that this should be able to be hacked, and it hasn't been, and it shouldn't be able to be. But to upgrade the wallets and upgrade the signatures, there has to be sort of a fork of Bitcoin, for lack of a better term, which means that you have to kind of upgrade everything together. And there's all of this Bitcoin that sits in, or there doesn't have to be a fork. Sorry, if not everything can be upgraded, there has to be a fork. So the idea is that, okay, well, if everybody upgrades, it's no big deal, right? But if not everybody upgrades, which is the concern right now, because there's a bunch of Bitcoin that we think belong to Satoshi or original owners of Bitcoin that's just kind of sitting out there. If those don't get upgraded and those have never moved, and so people think that those wallets are lost, the keys to those wallets are lost, then you have to fork Bitcoin, and then people are kind of like scared, like what happens then? And so that's like the debate that's happening internally right now in the Bitcoin community. And I think the obvious answer is that we're just going to end up forking Bitcoin, but people don't want to do that if they don't have to.
What's the biggest interesting? So is the quantum risk outweighing fears of singularity / like AGI reached, and then I guess then it wouldn't really matter if you have Bitcoin or not, would it?
I don't think that's
You're in your singularity. Go and enjoy it.
And we have the singularity, like who cares?
Enjoy the weather.
That's really good.
People just like to be scared of shit, to be honest. Like if I'm being completely clear, I think the reality is like I think a lot of the AI risk is overstated. Like we've been talking for years about we're gonna have mass unemployment, and this is gonna replace everybody's jobs. And I've been saying for years that listen, like I understand that this isn't the Industrial Revolution, this is moving quicker, but every time we've ever had technological change, we have grown jobs. People have found work to do. They want to do work. It's part of the human condition. Like people don't want to sit around and just like get fat. They as much as you might think you want to do that, you don't. And so like I think what we've seen this year is there's a lot of CEOs have come out and said, oh, I'm doing layoffs because of AI or whatever. And like almost every single one of those companies like hired like 4,000 people in 21.
It became a coping mechanism for boards to be like, to just 100%. Shift the blame to AI so their shareholders weren't like, hey, why have you hired all these people?
Yeah, 100%. And like I think if you actually look at the amount of jobs being created, there's been net creation of jobs. Like in software. Net creation of jobs in software, the thing that people said, like the AI is going to replace quicker than ever. And so I think the concern is overblown on at least on the economy side. I also don't think we're going to have like 30% GDP. Like, a lot of what's happening here on the growth of these AI models is just like them paying each other, or like the data centers are paying and so like it's a little bit of the Ouroboros of what's happening here. So listen, I think we're in an incredible time for growth and technological innovation and rebuilding and reinventing a lot of markets. Like I think the risk is overblown on that side. I also think the quantum risk is overblown. I think we're going to be like there is no better time than ever to be in technology today and to be starting companies. And you can look at like the Stripe data tells you there are more companies being started today than there has ever been. And so I'm excited about the future.
Yeah. No, we definitely share your bullish sentiment. We concur. Rob, it's been so good to have you on. We are 1 minute over, unfortunately, which, as I say, always happens when we have a great conversation. But Rob, thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and we'd love to have you on again.
Thanks, guys. Glad we were able to do it.
Have a good one, man.
See you soon.
Ciao.
Great to meet you.
Legend. That was really fun. We've got Stefan on next.
We do, but before we do that, 11 Labs, AI that communicates at human level across every channel and modality, deploy conversational agents across every customer interaction, and create on-brand content at scale. Go to 11labs.io. Everyone loves 11 Labs.
That was a big one.
They really do.
Big one. Eruption. Stefan is coming on to chat about the new Crunchbase X HumanX European AI funding report. We've got a bunch of key data points. to go through. We're also, I don't, is that announced yet? Maybe
I don't know.
Maybe not announced yet. I haven't announced it.
I don't know.
Live. There'll be an announcement at some point. There will be at some point an announcement. But yeah, we're having Stefan on again. Second time Stefan has been on the show, return guest.
We've had many returning guests.
Yeah, we have. We've had today. But as I say, we're high level. We're going to be going over some of the key data points from the report.
Let's do this.
The European AI funding has hit 21 billion in H1 of 2026. That's a pretty nice one. And there's a bunch of other stuff. And I'm realizing now, as we're saying this, we should maybe see if we can work with Crunchbase as well on our graph rollout. Now I'm thinking about this live.
Let's do it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We've got some nice graphs coming out for those that saw. We had the Aperol.
Should we pull one up?
The Aperol graph.
While we wait?
Wait, hold on. We've not talked about our NASDAQ appearance.
Oh, yeah. We're on the NASDAQ. Let's pull this up.
Let's get the
You
NASDAQ
can get it on
up.
my screen now. Here we are. Looking great.
Show me a NASDAQ. Look at that. Yeah, let's give it up for the NASDAQ as well.
Give it up
actually.
for the NASDAQ.
For sure. Yeah, really cool for that. Thank you to our friends at NASDAQ.
You are
there is
legends.
someone I can shout out who we're working with, but I'm not sure if we're meant to do that. So,
No, we're not. Friends at NASDAQ, who will not be named. You are great.
Thank you
very
for
much.
your support. We appreciate you coming to you live over there in Times Square, I believe.
Indeed. I've actually had a lot of messages saying, you guys got to come to New York. You've got to come and do a show in New York. And I'm thinking,
Look, we could go on tour. We could definitely go on tour. It's a lot of operational work to go on tour, but we could do it. Anyway, I'm getting news in my ear right now that our next guest is in the waiting room. Let's go ahead and bring Stefan up on the big screen. Bring him back. He's back. How are we, sir?
There he is.
It's good to see you again.
Good, guys. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing very well, sir. So Luke's played on Wii Sports.
All right, a little bit.
Soundboard. It goes on for quite a while.
You guys should definitely come to New York. I'll take you to a great restaurant called the Golden Steer. We'll get some steaks. It'll be great. So when you're there next, give me a shout.
Okay, we can't
Now
turn
we've
down a
sold
steak
Ronan.
live on the show, can we?
yeah.
That's
I'm trying to
insane.
pull us out of
It
London
can be a
for
good
day or
little
two.
swag swap. I can get some stuff for you from Golden Steer. My friend owns a place, so we'll go and get some good swag for you guys. It'll be good.
Let's go.
Okay, that's a huge suit.
For sure.
Not sorry, our soundboard seems to be malfunctioning. Stefan, it's so good to have you back. It's good to see you again. Would love to get a temperature check. How are things with you? I think it's been like 5 months since we last spoke.
Yeah.
HumanX, and then we can get into the AI report, the European AI funding report, which we've got a bunch of key data points here that we kind of just want to discuss high level with you.
Great. Love it.
Amazing.
So how'd it go? I guess in SF, we had about 7,000 people show up. It was incredible. 350 speakers. The best in the world were there. It was a ton of fun, which you guys were hanging out there with us. You're coming to Amsterdam though, so I'm excited to see you there. But it really kind of just reinforced what we're trying to do, which is a focus on trust. Like I'm not a conference guy. I'm a tech nerd. I'm a VC. I'm a all those things. I've built companies. I've run companies, and so the whole point of HumanX was really to say, how do we create something which actually I would want to go to as a former executive of a large company, and so really focusing on trust, focusing on the right speakers, focusing on the right topics even to be there at the event was really a huge focus, and that paid off pretty well for us.
Nice, we love to hear it. We can't wait to see you in Amsterdam as well. But that's going to be a whole bunch of fun. We've obviously seen some stuff about what's going on now. It's looking very exciting. We won't leak anything. But in that spirit, in the European spirit, let's talk about the European AI funding report. We were just kind of freestyling on some of the data points just before you came on. But sort of what was the incentive here? Like, I know you guys are really focused on Europe. You've got great expansion plans for Europe. You're taking the European ecosystem incredibly seriously. But any key findings from this report that came up that you guys really were surprised by? Anything that really stood out to you? And then, I guess a general breakdown on the report itself.
Yeah, I mean, look, the key numbers you saw: 23 billion for first half, which is 130% or so. Sorry, wow. Energy savings probably is some kind of European Brussels mandate. Hold on, there we go.
We love it.
That's amazing. You know, there's good regulation, bad regulation. This one maybe not be the best one.
Boo that one.
But no, so clearly funding's up significantly, which is great. And of course, you see where a lot of it's going, right? The frontier foundation models doesn't make a ton of sense. Although Mistral is great, AISI is great, there's a bunch of great companies over there.
Yep.
But robotics and healthcare and defense, categories where there's already a deep industrial base, that's where we're seeing a lot of the investment go into, which was both affirming and also kind of obvious when you think about it, because lean into your strengths, and that's really a strength that part of the continent has. So that's a big one. And of course, the capital concentration, just so much of the money going into 30 or 40 companies in Europe. I think 3/4 of the money went to almost 40 companies. So there you're seeing a kind of a classic barbell distribution. You've got people kind of putting a bunch of money behind the big ones, and you've got also a long tail of smaller investment rounds, especially in Europe where the rounds are often smaller. And so you kind of have people betting on, okay, there'll be a few big consolidating winners and then a bunch of people who will get bought, and that's your portfolio theory on the back end there. So there's great companies. Neura, Isomorphic, Wave, Yamaku's company. There's some big unicorns over there, which is exciting. Yeah, so it's great to see.
We concur.
I just wanted to ask a question about so we were having, right at the beginning when we started the show, I think the first few months, a lot of the conversations when we were speaking about Europe, surprisingly on the European Technology Network, was about our ability to build incredible companies on the app layer, and not necessarily on the kind of foundation layer. Can you talk to us, was there any kind of specific data that you felt kind of alluded to that and the incredible companies? We have some as amazing partners of ours, right? 11 Labs, kind of semi-building on the foundation layer as well. But we could list a ton out who are building great companies on the app layer. Was there any data that kind of showed what we're talking about?
Well, if you look at the distribution of where the money is going, certainly it's in the app layer. Again, it's in defense. You see a lot of money flowing to that direction, which is great. It's in the industrials is where you see people investing. What I love to look at is I do this a lot in my venture fund too. Look at kind of call it boring companies, boring processes, boring things that are being augmented with AI. And so are they an AI native company per se? Not necessarily, but are they able to? A good example, there's a company over here that is literally working on robotics to be able to put the rubber casing around windows in Volkswagens. Sounds crazy, right? Like, why would you?
That's so
But
neat.
today, literally, there's a guy or a gal on the assembly line who sits there, and it's called spooging. I'm not making it up. They have to spooge the rubber gasket around the door or the window frame, whatever it might be. Super hard for robots. Super hard, almost impossible. So this company's building a model that allows robots to actually have that force feedback and tension and torsion to make sure they can get in there. And that, of course, then gets expanded to other types of models that can have robots have higher dexterity and whatnot. So things like that, where I'm seeing money flowing into companies that are solving real problems that can be then generalized out to larger AI versus starting from the frontier and working.
Yeah, I really like that specifically because I don't think people are, and when I say people, I mean the masses, not just those who sit like pretty internally on AI updates. Yeah, the AI pilled guys that maybe sit on the inside, which is a great thing to be. I get very excited about the time in which, and the example we're giving how this conversation started was when we were talking about the mathematical breakthroughs from GPT's internal model Astra that came out the other day. It's like, we've solved 10 of the hardest math problems of all time. It cost us like 2,000 API credits. That's like a stunningly crazy thing, right? And like the focus internally for these labs is let's just keep pushing the benchmarks higher and higher and higher and higher. But it kind of made me realize, like, if we were to sort of move those resources or those capabilities towards something like in like the biological area, which I know we are kind of doing as well, or the manufacturing area or a specific vertical, like that is probably AGI in a way. Like, that is the time where the whole of the continent can reap the rewards of the current AI success.
I could not agree more. I think that's where, again, I'm seeing these really interesting, whether it's in defense is the same place. We saw an interesting medical company which was figuring out how to use AI to create a new type of catheter that reduced catheter-derived infections, right? And it's a new novel way to create a catheter, which is a pretty old school thing, and also quite painful, I understand. But the cool thing is, again, if you can solve one problem, like the spooging problem, that becomes, it can, not always, but it can become a generalizable solution.
Yeah, it's like a wedge in.
Other things that domain, right? Exactly. So I love that approach of going and solving a problem. You can get funding for it. It's a discrete thing that you're necessarily working on, and then you crack it, and then you can say, okay, great, we're all going to be applied. Just a different approach to kind of the AGI, as you said, or the models that
that's
we're
cool. That's like Spooge's law, maybe. I don't know. That's kind of.
God, we're totally using that Spooge's law.
I like it. I think that's cool. Moving slightly, not away, but still within this, the event that you guys are hosting, it's very AI focused. Naturally, why would it not be? It's kind of like everything is AI now. Sort of contrastingly, I'm seeing a rise in the amount of sort of non-digital related sort of connections that human beings are making. In-person events, they are most certainly back. And it's funny because these in-person events are around the huge
non-in-person things.
Yeah, like the most insane technological evolution that like we will ever see on Earth.
Sure.
But there does seem, with that curve, there does seem to be a bit of a resurgence for human-to-human related type events. We would be curious to get your take on that sort of viewpoint generally in this realm of AI.
Yeah. Well, look, obviously I'm biased, but the reason we started this thing was precisely for that reason. If you think about what AI is doing, the ability for a normie, even for a well-educated or well-informed person in AI, to keep up with the deluge of things that happen every single day. And now you have AI creating more of that deluge every single day. You have case studies and Harvey Ball charts and all that stuff. Like the ability for a person who's in charge, let's say it's a marketing manager who's in charge of the AI strategy for her division within a company, her ability to go and figure out what the F to go bet on using online resources only, I mean, good luck. Good luck. There's zero chance. So that's why we have such a huge focus at HumanX on literally bringing people in who have a real problem. We qualify them, we talk to them, we understand their problem, we bring them in, and we literally broker. We actually broker thousands of meetings at every HumanX between vendors and providers and people who have problems, and we do the work to actually match them and say, you go get this done. And here's how you get it done. And that is, it's so old school and it's so manual. Luckily, we use AI to do a lot of the matching and all that kind of stuff. So we're pretty proud on that path. But the ability to look someone in the eye, ask the question, not have it be a chatbot or some LLM generated response that tells you what you want to hear, that's exactly right. I mean, I don't know how anyone can keep up. I can't keep up. And I'm in this, and you guys are too, every single day. And like how we probably miss 80% of the things that happen in a given day. How does a person who's running a division of marketing at a company, how is she going to keep up? There's just no way.
100%. You're right on like it's gone off.
Super
incredible.
Efficient.
I'm going like this. This is good.
I love this. It's more ominous.
Yeah, we
try to get this on.
Turn them on.
That's so good.
Professional. You are welcome.
That's really good. That's really good. Stefan, I'm realizing we are at time, and we're getting told our next guest is in line. But
I see him waiting. He's not happy. He's giving me the evil eye.
He's turned his lights off to get on the party.
Don't copy me, man. That's my game. All right. We'll see you guys. We'll see you at Golden Steer, hopefully in New York. I'll see you in Amsterdam in 6 or 7 weeks. Everyone should come to HumanX. Check it out, humanx.co. Come, please. You will love what's going on.
Boom.
Indeed, you will. Good stuff, man. We'll see you soon.
Always a pleasure, Stefan.
Ciao.
See you soon. Bye-bye. Guy's such a legend. That's so funny. We have got Sam Hogg in the waiting room.
Let's bring him in. Let's just bring him in straight away.
Get him in here.
I'm playing Wii Sports
He's
again.
playing Wii Sports. Let him cook. Oh, I didn't know. Put it out. Sorry. Cook! Let him cook.
Hey, bro, how's it going? We can't hear you.
Oh, no, I can't hear you. Wait.
Turn mute off, maybe.
Maybe headphones might be a problem. I don't know.
Hold on.
I don't know.
Gives me an opportunity to play Wii Sports, so that's fine.
Is that our technical difficulties music?
Yeah, please. Oh,
I can't hear you.
Maybe rejoin.
Should we try? He's going to rejoin, I think.
He's going to rejoin.
He's going to rejoin. Okay, Disco Diplomacy.
He'll be right back.
Sam Hogg. We're having some troubles in the studio right now, but we're going to get him back in here.
Great conversation. I was going to talk about the before Stefan's lights turned off. I was going to talk about the role of the relationship. I think ever increasingly you're seeing the role of the relationship, as we're building our company, right? It is so important to just have these
stuff.
Yeah, but dude, every company is. Fine, maybe not if you're selling B2B. Having a relationship is important with someone.
Sam, you're back. Can we get a noise check?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we got him.
We got him.
Gentlemen.
Dude, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
From the new show.
We can hear you.
So good to have you on, sir.
Pleasure to be here. It's looking great. I enjoyed the previous guest too. I am not going to stand up because I'm wearing no trousers. So that's the difference between me and him.
I love that.
Nice.
Okay, with that in mind, with no trousers in mind, were the trousers blown off by the news that we saw today? I'm imagining so.
Always. Like Cartoon Network.
Yeah, some sort of road runner cartoon incident. Let's get into it. Can you just give us, you wrote a huge report on this, and we thank you for your service, sir. Can you maybe just give us a breakdown as what are we looking at here? Maybe let's start with what actually happened, because I'm seeing some the copy and the way it was reported is a little bit misleading.
Break it down for us.
Yes, please.
For sure. So, you guys discussed it earlier on the show, so I'll give a very top-level overview. And there'll be a huge amount of disagreement between the technical experts that have still to come and sort of do a post-mortem. But the top line is basically this. The UK's AI Security Institute was running a set of cyber evaluations. And to do this, it was basically giving a bunch of different models from Anthropic and OpenAI a chance to try and complete a cyber task. And at some point early last Tuesday morning, an alert went out throughout AISI's cybersecurity team, that something was extracting data and sending it away. And that pinged the alert. And they then turned around and went to their team that were testing this and said, what's going on here? And it happened to transpire that a couple of the different instances of this evaluation, the models had connected to the internet and tried to complete their task, but had unfortunately undertaken deception of a severity level that AISI had never previously seen in the process. Now, how we translate that depends on where you sit on the scale. You just misalignment. Some people will view this as almost like a super intelligence moment. I don't think it is that. Others will view this as really poor form from AISI to allow this to happen in the first place. Why was the internet access and so on? I think it really depends on where you sit on the risk threshold spectrum and also how technical you are on that point.
Yeah. Explain to us then, how in your world, which I say is more connected to this specific area of AI specifically, what are the initial reactions in terms of what are people most worried about? I guess, is it potentially, I don't know, this could go and hack any company, or could this go and take down a financial market, or could this go and take down a whatever it is? What are the stages of worry here for these people?
Yeah, so in the world that I come from, particularly my background is international relations, politics, stuff like that, strategic advisory, campaigning. The interesting thing here is the social engineering aspect, because we saw one of the models create a series of profiles to try and convince a human being to allow it to do something.
Yeah, deception was the main thing, right?
Exactly. And that, from my point of view, is by far the most interesting, because a lot of the evaluations we see in the public domain around how can an LLM try and persuade you with things like, you and I speak to an LLM and it tries to make us believe that this is this. But what we've not really seen examples of in real time are these non-static agent-led social engineering aspects. Let's say there's 40 different people in an online forum trying to convince you or us three that we need to do X, Y, and Z. Well, if all 40 of those are agent-led, that's a very different equation than what we've been used to in the internet so far. And again, from my point of view and from my background, I know companies in London that have been doing this, not with agents, but with actual human beings. I mean, it's a well-trodden path to try and do influence campaigns abroad, for better and for worse on different issues. So this is an interesting new frontier in essence on that front.
That's fascinating and also incredibly worrying. It's making me excited and also terrified at the same time. With that in mind, one could then launch these mass misinformation campaigns, agentic led, which I assume is probably already happening actually now.
Yeah. Well, when we last had you on, you were talking a lot about the kind of social dynamics that you have to kind of work out in your role, and how everything happens on a kind of country level basis. And now from this kind of report and this review, we're seeing that on the agent level as well, and like the first kind of increments. What does that like? What does that mean on a state level kind of decision? For the decision makers, how would they then interpret that, thinking, okay, well, now they've got to a position where we're doing a similar thing sometimes to what an agent has literally just gone to go and do. What does that mean for them?
So a couple of caveats. I think first is that one of the key points that's been perhaps looked over slightly in this analysis so far is that to be able to test it like they did, they had to remove various safeguards that the three of us or the consumer cannot use. Cannot remove. And they're using a model that is not in its current setup that they were using commercially available. To get to that point, that is definitely a new frontier. That's not to say that that will always stay out of reach, by the way, for obvious reasons. You guys discussed at length the frontier and how fast that moves forward. If you were advising a prime minister or a president or a senior minister in charge of this sort of stuff, you would probably be flagging those points, but you'd also be saying that every single eval, frontier, checkpoint, whatever, there'll be a team somewhere in one of the leading countries in the world trying to work out how to exploit and undermine that to use their own ends. And don't forget that, their own ends are in their nation's best interests, and they aren't always in our nation's best interests. It's such an obvious point that gets lost in II and like international relations and stuff. And so it's fantastic that AISI has published this report, very helpful for us to go through and analyze what's there, but it's hard at this stage to predict what that necessarily means in 6 months, a year's time for these sort of campaigns.
And speaking of like other nations, we covered it today. We were not surprised, but I thought it was significant that the White House had invited some of the model lead, not like the CEOs, but they'd invited some executive level individuals from OpenAI, Anthropic, and a few others to discuss the new AI legal framework that they set out, and the resulting sort of decision around that seems to be that frontier models will have to go through a sort of pre-screening test in the White House, but it does not include US open source, but it obviously will include, non-domestic everything. Is this specifically with concerns around like open source things in China? Is this what they're kind of preparing for, perhaps? Where are we at with the China, US and UK, I guess, relationship? Like how much of the open source stuff is taking over the timeline and the conversation?
Yeah, so I think the conversation in the US, and well, certainly in the US, is often led by what is viewed as happening in China, correctly or incorrectly. There's a lot of emotion that goes into that analysis rather than objective analysis too. And there's lots of different incentivized camps who say different things too. But, just to draw that back into this incident here and where the US sits in that and where the UK sits in that, it's fascinating when you actually read through the technical report, which I would really recommend people do. It's super, super well written.
Let's go.
Obviously, I'm an absolute neek, so I love doing that stuff anyway. But yeah, it sets out a really clinical timeline as to how they did things on Tuesday through to Monday. And it was almost an entire week before the UK's AC alerted the frontier companies involved and critically their US counterparts officially, so Casey. That's an amazing amount of time. And if you think about that in like national security terms, 6 days is a long amount of time to have a head start on any particular issue. So again, as I said before, I'm an absolute bull for UK AC. You could not find a bigger fanboy than myself. They do incredible work. So I hope among the very legitimate criticism that arises about how they ran these evals, people can see the more impressive macro strategic advantage of having AC, because it gives us that like multiple days sometimes head start on these different affairs as they take place. Yeah.
Doing great work. If we can, whilst we have you, can you give us a sense of where things are at in China, like generally with their AI policy? Like I know that you're obsessed with the relationship between the UK and China, and then AI geopolitically within that case. Is there anything you can share, I guess, at high level? Like, how are the relations? Are they good? Is everyone getting on, or what's happening?
Is everyone getting on? I would probably not articulate it as such, but find me a time when they have. I think what was very exciting from our point of view, so the team has just been at the World AI Conference in Shanghai and then done various bits and pieces in China. I think the feedback is generally, from a British perspective, the British diplomats are fantastic, well linked, doing some great work out there, which is super good from our point of view. The Chinese companies, AI companies, fascinating. There's been a lot of talk on the timeline over the last week or so around the psychology of their leaders and their CEOs. What did they mean by AGI? How do they want to get there? Do they have a 996 approach to their workforce? Who are they hiring? So on and so forth. That is super different between each one of them. Really, really cool area that's picking up more and more examination. And then the thing that was a takeaway from our team's point of view was around robotics in China. Often you go to these conferences and it's like, wow, my coffee is being poured by a robot. That's really impressive. Less so this year. It seems like it's a bit more in a different direction on that front. There is obviously a push to do lots of consumer-facing robotics, someone who can fold my laundry or whatever. But I think there's a deeper level going on there that would be very, very impressive. And you see the clips on Twitter every now and then too of these sort of things taking place. But that was the impression that we got from our team, generally speaking.
Yeah, okay, interesting. How much of the, because there's a lot of worry from the US specifically about not being in the know about how China is dealing with, I don't know, defining AGI or as you kind of mentioned, right? How much of a problem is that when a country doesn't actually know what the other country is even doing or thinking about or defining certain terms? What does that do to? Would you say just keep the blinkers on and do your thing, or would you say try and get that information?
Yeah, for the reasons you've outlined, it's a really critical issue because you cannot make strategy if you are presuming what the other side is doing without having concrete analysis. Even if you're the most hawkish China person, that is, you don't like the CCP at all. You need to understand what they're doing, saying, articulating. It's one of the reasons why we push all the time for an increase in China capabilities, Mandarin speakers, tech speakers, people who are literate in both of those things, because you cannot do vibes-based foreign policy or vibes-based strategy. Trust me, I've tried, and it's terrible. You need to actually put in the hard graft, learn, build human connections. Many of these things, by the way, will weather the storm of the upcoming tech revolution. Is can you go for coffee with someone? Do they trust you? And so on and stuff like that. And so I'm a huge advocate for getting down there, not engaging for the sake of engaging. It has to be very narrowly defined, but doing this stuff properly so you can build a coherent understanding of what you're trying to do on your side too.
Yeah, I hear that. I know we've probably got about 60 seconds left. Would be cool to get your take on just generally going back to the AISI findings, the report, this sort of trends that we're seeing on model leaders trying to out-hack, obviously in meme format, who can win the hacking benchmarking, which I think is very entertaining. Any predictions on how, where does this go? Are we going to see more? Are we going to see defensive capabilities start getting a lot more resources? With that said, naturally we would see offensive resources get a lot more responsibilities as well. Any predictions for you? How does this play out, you think?
So my specific interest is the intersection of AI and bio, where that might head in that direction here. My sort of last 30 seconds would be this. There's lots of presumptions around where it might uplift that seem incorrect when you speak to bio people. And there are some presumptions around where the moat may be that seem incorrect when you look at trends in general. And so I think all of that to say that if I was to say one thing to the Prime Minister in the UK, keep funding AISI, keep attracting the best talent in the world. This is a premium institution that there is no comparison to around the world. It is unbelievably good. So for that reason, I'm very grateful to have them here. They're a great team doing very hard work. And also the final thing is go through the work log and see how long and how late these guys worked last week and compare that to your average civil servant. That's my final point.
Let's go.
Let's go. They're 996 in here. 997 maybe. Who knows?
We love it. Sam, always a pleasure, man. We'll let you get back to your busy day. Sounds like you got a lot to do.
A lot of reading and highlighting, I'm sure.
Let's go. Upside down.
Good stuff, man. We'll see you soon.
See you later.
Ciao.
Good to see you again. Sam Hogg, ladies and gentlemen, Disco Diplomacy.
What a legend. Let's just talk about Framer, build better sites faster, the all-in-one platform where enterprise teams design, build and ship production-ready websites. Go to framer.com/ETN. We will have our final guest joining us soon.
Yeah, that is Madison Mills. I mentioned earlier.
Really interesting guest.
Madison set the timeline on fire. It was her scoop that took over the whole of X. Dario
She set the
is
trend.
concerned. She took over the timeline. She is the fire starter. She is the scoop queen. Can we bring Madison Mills into the studio on air? Yes, we can. Madison, welcome to the European Technology Network.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
No, we're pumped. We're pumped. We were just giving a very brief intro on your fire starting capabilities, your scoop that came out, the talent in the AI talent wars, and the loyalty is lacking. And it was really, I found, just very quickly, I thought it was so funny that this came out when it did, because we were chatting literally a day prior or 2 days prior on the show saying, where are all the talent war takes? Where are all the talent war articles? Where are all the talent war
leaks? They've just dissolved into, all of the pieces. They're not on the headlines anymore. We're bored.
We couldn't find any of them, but then your piece came out. So we would love to just get a sense of why did you investigate this? How did it go generally? What were some of the key findings? But yeah, basically a full run through.
Well, it really started with Lillian leaving Thinking Machines. And as you guys know, but just the recap, Lillian, one of the co-founders of Thinking Machines, left the company citing health reasons. And then it was reported by The Information that Lillian rejoined OpenAI. And as you know, this is like a strain of example after example, especially of co-founders leaving these AI companies and then going over to a competitor, which to us just felt different than what we've seen in other tech build-outs and other kind of tech revolutions, that typically the co-founders are kind of bought in on the vision and want to stay.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
They're kind of wanting to look into why is it different this time? And so, you have your source calls that I can't give a ton of detail on, but somebody who was previously very high up at Anthropic, who I got on the phone with just to kind of chat through exactly like you guys said, what is going on with these talent wars? And that's when the source mentioned that Dario had been vocal in private meetings about his concern that people were coming to the company for the wrong reasons, for money and not for the mission.
Yeah. We obviously there's obvious takes there that people have taken on the timeline. That is, well, yeah, man. If you're offering, the packages that you're offering to the people that you're
Some of
offering
the
to,
highest salaries.
it's like the most, it's just the biggest package one can probably get in Silicon Valley right now at the staff level. That is, why is this guy concerned with that, right? But we were kind of thinking it's a really funny morality or character test, because on one hand you have, I guess, money and also, your mission focus. So it's mission and the money. You can get both if you wanted both. But then to switch and move team is kind of just more money, because you're kind of outing yourself and not believing in the mission then if your mission can just change like that, right?
Well, and this is what I found so interesting that didn't go as viral, is that a lot of the people who I have spoken with on background who have moved AI companies, they express the same concerns that me and my normal friends do, that AI could take our jobs, and they want to kind of secure their bag now while they can and go to a top AI lab that could give them generational wealth when they go public. And so I think that that's super interesting, that even the people who are kind of building this technology are also worried about it potentially taking their jobs someday.
Yeah, it's cool. We were also speaking about, because of the imminent IPOs and, between Anthropic and OpenAI, do you think, and have you heard potentially that there's less maybe jumping around between these people from one AI lab to another, purely to stay in the lab and make sure that you're going to benefit from whenever that company does float?
Well, I do think that is another part of it, is sort of the timing around these IPOs and people wanting to, again, make sure that they're at the company where they not only could secure the highest amount of money when they eventually IPO, but also this idea that you kind of want to be at the winner of the AI race if we're still calling it that, So some people who I spoke with also indicated that they kind of felt like they were seeing the success of either OpenAI and Anthropic in their own work. And so they wanted to be at those labs that have the highest technical capabilities when they IPO as well. And so I think that it's kind of both of those things, the money pre-IPO and then also the technical capabilities. But I also, and this is a tough story to kind of land, but some of the people I talked to who are former executives at these AI labs mentioned that they feel like there's an increase in people going on health leave to be able to increase the amount of time they're at the company before their shares vest. That is a trick one. So if anyone wants to DM me their thoughts on that, or if you are somebody who has taken leave.
Who is doing that.
feel free to message me, but that is a tough scoop to potentially try.
Yeah, it would anonymous, I'm sure.
I'd break the timeline again.
It would have to be run. Yes. Connected to the mission thing, did you, during your research period to prepare this article, was there anything that surprised you in the way that people were reacting to like the mission? Were you surprised at how mission-focused individuals are? Because I've had quite a chase the bag kind of take for most of these people. If they were waving cash in their faces 99 times out of 10, I think that they would probably go. But were you surprised at how close people were holding the mission to themselves in anything that you discovered at all? Or
I do think that's a really good question. I think that in my conversations, which are limited, I'm not talking to every person at these companies, so it's just not this minimal perspective, but I do find that the folks I talk to who recently left Anthropic or are going to Anthropic are very, very focused on the mission. That's a very key part of the interview process. They talk to you about a moral quandary that you've had in your real life and how you dealt with that as part of the interview, right? So I do feel like that is such a core to their culture. Yeah. Not to say that it's not for OpenAI or DeepMind, but I think those are just different companies in the way that they talk about their mission. I will say the people who I talked to at Google DeepMind, I did a story a couple weeks ago on this, are really at odds with Demis when it comes to the company mission because of Google making deals with the US military. And so I feel like they are talking about the mission in a sense of like, we do not agree with our leadership on where the company is heading.
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting dynamic when, you know, a leader of a lab comes out and then a public, you know, employee will come out publicly and kind of like disagree with certain things. We've seen that a few times.
Yeah, it doesn't always end that well.
No, it doesn't.
In some cases, usually it's fine.
Yeah,
but in some cases, we've seen it not end well.
How do you feel like because we were talking about the strategy between these leaders of like frontier labs on how much to pay employees, whether going the kind of almost like lowball route, making sure that you're like really mission driven, and then remunerating these people who are only mission driven on your mission, that's maybe a strategy. What do you feel like, leaders of these labs are thinking in terms of like, the strategy to bring the best people in, not just paying them most?
Yeah. I mean, I don't envy them, right? Because there is this talent war and it's incredibly competitive and you want the best people and you kind of need the best people to make sure your models are always the best and that you're bringing the best technology to market and now potentially hardware to market. So you have to pay people a lot of money to get the best people to come to your company, but then you want people who are also mission driven. So I think that's why this is such a good story of the AI talent wars, because it is a difficult tightrope to walk. And that's in part why we're seeing these companies kind of go through this transition period. Also, you work really, really hard. So some of the people who I talked to said, you are paid because you are working all the time. I talked to somebody who said that they hadn't eaten in their last couple of weeks when they were working at a frontier AI lab. They weren't sleeping at all. Like, these people are working really hard. And so some of them feel like they deserve to be compensated for that at a higher rate. And that's why they would say they're pro making more money when they're working at these
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Yeah. If you're grinding the midnight oil all the time, then fair enough. There was another part of the article that I found, and I don't know why it surprised me. But you mentioned, I think there was a line in there that basically alludes to the fact that like a lot of the researchers at these competing labs are talking to each other quite a lot. There's quite a lot of discourse, obviously not at the executive level. We were saying I can't imagine like Daria and Sam are, on the phone all the time. But there's a lot of communication and, probably multiple group chats that different researchers at different varying seniorities are in with other labs. That surprised me. And then I don't know why it surprised me, but now I'm thinking about it out loud. Like, obviously they're probably communicating in, like, I guess not about sensitive topics, but maybe just, hey, how's it going over there?
Yeah, well, it's sort of like, think about your normal life. Like for me, I'm in group chats with other journalists, you're friends with people who are in your industry, especially I think for so many of these AI technical experts. Some of them are really young and have kind of moved to Silicon Valley together. I talked to a guy who was living on the couch of somebody who ended up being a co-founder of Cursor, like this is just sort of part of the Silicon Valley culture. And then you're in a group chat because you're just friends, and naturally you're going to end up talking about your jobs as part of that. There are certain group chats that are kind of talked about as kind of the creme de la creme that us as reporters like to get insights into with certain investors of AI labs, things like that. And so you hope to develop sourcing with people who are in those chats who can talk to you about any major financial news that's breaking in them. But for the most part, I think it's pretty locked up.
That's so funny. Have you been able to speak to some people who are in these kind of like creme de la creme group chats? Is that?
We're always talking. You know what I mean?
Okay, cool.
And sometimes it makes it into the stories, and sometimes it's just good fodder to know.
Really cool. Wait, so this is like, this is like the group chat where everything's happening type of thing, and it's known in Silicon Valley law. These are the specific ones you want to be in. Is that kind of like?
I feel that way. I feel like I know of some that I am really interested in, and you develop sources who you hope trust you, and of course you trust them, and hope that they will share with you any, again, like breaking news about these AI companies that comes out in these group chats.
Yeah, of course. Okay, now I want to get your take on, because you have so much insight about where this potentially might be going. Do you think this will ever end? Do you think this will be a thing that is just persistent with the growth of these frontier models? Like where do you think the kind of the top is?
Well, I talked to Zach Cass, who used to be on go-to-market at OpenAI, and he has this really interesting idea of diminishing model returns that eventually, for the majority of people, not for the most technical people, they're not going to care if they're using GPT-7 or GPT-5, right? Yeah. And I wonder if once that becomes a more popularized thing, if that does end up becoming true, if that starts to lessen the competition amongst the labs, and frankly, the massive nature of every model release just may not be a thing anymore in that world, and that could potentially make it less of a talent grab. Yeah.
And I feel like that maybe the gap that the way that gap is getting filled right now is probably from open source stuff coming in. Like we mentioned that we don't need a mythos or a fable to do our help us with guest notes for the show that day, or researching a certain topic. We need something that pales in comparison to how powerful that frontier stuff. But then we also kind of feel that if the promise for those frontier top of the range models, maybe like an Astra, right, that we're seeing that can solve 10 of the hardest mathematical problems of all time with $2,000 of API credits, there will always be infinite demand for something powerful better, because it can potentially solve everything in the world.
Totally. And this is a bigger picture thing. I feel like we're always thinking about how AI can cut costs and increase productivity, but not how AI can create whole new revenue streams. And for that, you probably need the higher performing models.
Yeah, there's always going to be a performance benchmark, I think, always.
Yeah. Really cool. Really fascinating. We are at time. This is the end of the interview, unfortunately. I've thoroughly enjoyed this, Madison. We would love to have you back on again for any future scoops.
I would love that.
Yeah, if you'll allow us, our US correspondent, maybe. Thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Cheers, Madison. Have a good one.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you for your work. Bye. Ciao.
Awesome stuff.
Senior AI reporter at Axios, the fire starter.
Starter, indeed. 11 Labs, AI that communicates at a human level across every channel and modality, deploy conversational agents across every customer interaction, and create on-brand content at scale. Go to 11labs.io. We will see you tomorrow. We will be back at some point tomorrow, probably at 12 p.m. as usual. Ciao. Thanks for joining us.
See ya. Be right back.
Yeah.